Alright. Okay, thanks. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Nrsc Regional School Committee to order. It is 6 o'clock on Thursday, September 11th. We are in the Nrsc room of the Nrsc Middle School. And as required by the open meeting law, we are informing you that the district is videotaping this public meeting. In addition, if anyone else intends to either video or audio tape this meeting, they are required to inform and share. So if nothing else, we will get started. I would, before we start with anything, like to take a moment to remember that today, we're meeting on September 11th. And I'd like to take a moment to remember the significance of the day, the events that happened, the people who lost their lives, the families and friends and people across the world really affected by that. I have to kind of pinch myself and remember that it was 2001, 24 years ago. So our oldest seniors were 7 years old, or no, weren't even born yet, and weren't born for 7 more years. Get my math right, Judy. And so for them, this is history. So I think it behooves all of us to stop and remember the day and make sure that it's not forgotten, even for those who weren't born yet. And I know the middle school had a remembrance today, and maybe you would like to share what you did with the middle schoolers.
Yeah, so we had the entire student body and faculty out in the front lawn. We had invited first responders from town as well. So we had a number of people from the Fort Wayne Fire and Rescue and a number of people from the police department. Both chiefs were there as well. Students raised the flag, said the Pledge of Allegiance, and of course sang the national anthem. I gave some remarks, and we had a couple of our musicians do taps and echo. We do this annually. And to your point, none of our students were alive, so it is history to them. And so for us, it's important, I think, to be able to educate them about the significance of those events, and then how important the days following that, when the country came together, how important that was, and how we can and should get back to that idea of everybody coming together and working together to make our community better. So it was a very nice ceremony. It's so to my team, I'm up for someone else to take on the speaking role because it's emotional. It's hard to get through the talk, but it was a powerful ceremony, and the kids were unbelievably respectful. It's really a nice event, and today was eerily similar weather-wise to 2001, so yeah, part of it.
I think it's one of those things that probably none of us will ever forget where we were when we read it. But just to point out how history moves on, I also will never forget where I was when I heard JFK was assassinated. And probably there are people in this room that weren't born then. So history does move. But thank you for sharing that. Yes, it's a key to remember, definitely. All right. With that, we will move on. Any agenda changes? I think we may shift the things around a little bit as we move on, but there are no changes. So we'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody out there for public comment? I think there is not. We'll see. All right, so we can move on from there. and move right on to the consent agenda. There are no minutes, we have August 28th, we'll get at those, at our next meeting. So it's just to approve gifts, grants, and fundraising. And so there is one, donation in there that I would like to acknowledge and thank. American Legion Post 308 Veterans Fund from Orleans, through the Cape Cod Foundation, has given, $2,341.32 to, the Nauset Regional Middle School for book awards and for the school band. The American Legion Post is, often a contributor, and we are very grateful that they keep us and our word in mind. That was the one donation, and there were a number of fundraising, all the middle school is a busy. So is there any discussion?
Good question about, there were a lot of, I mean, this never crossed my mind before, but there were so many, things where the middle school, junior honor society was, selling fake goods, soap and candles and things like that, and it's not something that I've never thought to ask, is there liability? The kids covered, the school covered, if something went awry with any of those things, or something that I'm not expecting it to answer, but maybe something we can look into.
I don't know, I mean, the sales are common, so
Product liability, what do you talk?
Like somebody got that.
Rolling on a table?
You know how people can be. I don't know, I never thought of that, but I would want to make sure.
I think if it was a faulty product, it wouldn't have anything to do with the sale, it had to do with the company that manufactured. I
Right.
don't think, I mean, I don't know, I think a good question of the order, that's how you think.
yeah. I have, and I've mentioned this to Peter, I have an issue, I guess, with one of the activities. And that is sending out, the letter to local businesses. I remember when this, fundraising norm, I think, came up first two superintendents ago. This form was developed and, to be used for the fundraising requests, and one of the reasons was the then superintendent said that whether this was just possible, or he knew that it was happening, or he felt that it could happen, I could, the word is not, that we wanted to make sure that we didn't hit up businesses too much. That, we're small towns, we have small businesses, they're not that, and so we didn't want to overburden the businesses with all of our requests, and this was kind of a way to keep track of it, whether we've done that or not. So I bring that up because my feeling is, if we say yes to one group to send out letters, we would have to say yes to every group. And if every group that did fundraising sent out letters to local businesses, we would definitely vote them. So I am concerned about this one, but I don't know if we can do it.
Yeah, we're happy to withdraw that one, so you can move forward with your approval of the consent agenda. I think the advisory was thinking of ways that the kids would learn some sort of valuable skills in their leadership role as honor society, but I think your point is well taken, because we certainly don't want to do that. There are other organizations like the Middle School Education Foundation that has partnerships with some of these businesses already, so they will be tapped for other things, so we're happy to pull that particular,
Yeah,
request.
other people may not agree with me, I'm just throwing that out. So I just, again, we probably have 50 different groups for the year between the high school and the middle school, fundraising, and, I just don't think we could approve it for all of them, so maybe not all of them want to do it, but, perhaps you could see how much you could raise for these other. I am coming to the car wash, by the way, twice. So I wouldn't be there. It's Saturday, everybody, the car wash. Anyway. So again, I don't know. All right, is there any other discussion?
Do you want to make a motion?
Yep.
Okay, so I move that we approve the consent agenda with the following changes, that we omit the approval of minutes of August 28th and omit the approval of the Nrsc Regional, Nrsc Junior High School's letter outreach for fundraising. Is that clear enough? Okay, good.
Third. Okay, any further discussions? We're all here, right? Yay. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Yeah. Okay, passes unanimously.
Very quick point, yeah, I think something's got to be said to the. Whatever, we put out, look at all this fundraising, that's a lot of work and a lot of effort, and so you commend you for that.
They are gonna be busy little people.
You've been not necessarily griping for years, but we have been knowing for years that the inequity of some students not able to afford these trips. And so, robust fundraising events, multiple events like this is a great step to trying to help them overcome that. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's an awful lot of work. So you just gotta really appreciate the effort.
Absolutely.
What would the cost be for the school committee to have a discussion about whether or not we want to include that in our budget as like an enrichment program that we're providing for our students? But does that make sense? So he mentioned like the inequality, and so how is that as a school committee something that we could sort of look at as a monetary value? Like, is it possible for us to create a funding?
Well, we do have a policy that no student will be turned away because they can't afford
So I understand that. So do we have a funding line then in our budget that allocates money to sort of school trips and?
it. Principals, correct?
So behind the scenes, we have the Warrior Fund at the high school, which is usually done kind of quietly and diplomatically when the counselors learn that there's activities like travel. And then and then we can work particularly with that family to make sure that the student does not miss out. So we kind of have that covered confidentially.
So that still relies on fundraising from the parent?
That relies on fundraising or donations. Maybe last year or the year before I came forth to this group and we accepted a donation. A couple of people have given us a substantial donation, more than $1,000. A couple have been more than 2,500 at a time. So we keep that money off to the side and we have a system through the central office about double sign off. So,
And that's for both the middle school and high school?
I'm speaking for the high school.
Right,
No.
so what do we have for the middle school? I guess I'm looking at this $5,000. Is there a mechanism, if the school committee chose, would we be able to submit a budget that included a line item for enrichment? And part of that enrichment was for the purpose of trips such as this, where, the students are not covering the burden of fundraising.
I think it would have to be part of the budget process. There's line items that support field trips, and when we go through that budget process, I could submit to you a healthier line item there for your approval at that point. But to do it now would be tricky through that. But again, that to Chris's point, this is why we're doing so many fundraisers to lower that cost, and then through like PTO or the Ed Foundation or some of the class accounts that we've got, we are able to scholarship students to make sure that every student can go if they want to go.
But that would be a budget question, that would be bring up the budget time.
I guess my question is that I just want to make sure there's not a restriction for us as a committee that wouldn't qualify to sort of fund that or increase the funding.
I don't think there would be a restriction, you know, there's lots of latitude within the budget. I think that the greater restriction would be how that's administered and the policies that would back that. You know, certainly you could establish a fund, very great confidence can say that. It would be then, how is that fund distributed? What's the mechanism to do so? Is that looking at it from an equitable standpoint across grade levels? It would also require a lot more in advance planning. If you were really intent, like hypothetically to say, any and all such field trips would be covered by the operating budget. Is that possible? Perhaps if there were funding there, but you would really then need to ask from respective staff members to have a full scale view of long-term view of trips and costs well over a year in advance, which would be a challenge. So, you know, but I mean, there's ways to get at anything, but I think it would be, there'd be a lot of things to think through from a policy standpoint. That go.
Judy, can I just propose that maybe we put something like this on a future agenda so that we can
Yes.
talk about this and we even incorporate that into an educational foundation? We have a nonprofit educational foundation already.
But you also should look, I mean, it is a trend in schools that budgets include the cost of trips, period. So it's not a, it's a very, in system that we have conversation. In our yeah, we can't not just making decisions, we just having this history, what we've done.
Okay, okay, if there's nothing further, then we'll move on to primary business. We have 3 trips. Well, that's it, definitely. And we're gonna start with the National Junior Honor Society. It's going to Washington, and Leslie's there. Leslie, you wanna talk about your trip? Maybe we'll. Let's move on and see if we can come back
Got
to
it. Got it. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha. Okay.
But
There you
can't-
are.
There I am. Okay. I apologize. I had the wrong date on my calendar, so I'm pulling up my files as we speak. But we are hoping to do the same kind of trip that we did last year. It is for the National Junior Honor Society, as well as student councils from all around the world. It was really, really powerful. The feedback I got from parents and students was amazing. We are going to DC this year, which is the normal location that they have. I think I've got pretty much our budget and what we're trying to raise. We've raised, we started recruiting early this year. We started recruiting in the spring instead of the fall. So that gave us a jump. So we did the 2 car washes and made over $2,000. We've got a car wash we're hoping to do on Saturday, as well as quite a list of other fundraising that looks like you've got.
Yes, great. Does anybody have any questions for Leslie?
Curious about the field trip proposal, just I guess a process question. So is this, you're looking for our approval for this trip now tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so just wondering, and this is not only for this field trip, but for all 3. Typically we have, I wonder, do we have a form that folks are supposed to be filling out in order to present a field trip permission?
No, that's what we're working on.
Oh,
This year we will have.
so there's no format.
Yeah. Yeah. But to your other point, the trip, according to policy, the trip needs to be approved before the fundraising can begin. So, that's why these trips are coming in early, even if some of them are later in the meeting. So, Leslie, how many students do you think will be going?
We're shooting for 20 right now. I have deposits from 13, and then another parent as a paying attendee will be coming as well. The other chaperone will be Bonnie Hartung, because her daughter's in our society.
Okay, any other questions?
What are the grades of students that are going?
What are the grades that the students?
Junior honors at our school is only for 8. I apologize, I'm having some poor sound quality. It is only for 8. So 13-year-olds.
Okay, anything else?
Just, well, appreciate the picture from last year's trip. It's good something I think we've asked you to get back to us, and also want to appreciate all the efforts you're doing to raise funds. It's it just, I know it takes a lot of work and a lot of off time, off school time. I appreciate it. It's nice to see your effort, so thank you.
Thank you. These kids are a joy, a joy. I'm happy to be able to give back to some high achievers, because I think for the past few years, it's the kids who weren't making good decisions that were really getting kind of our focus as they needed to, but these kids need their time in the sun too. And we're a service organization, and we've already done some help with the homeless this summer and some other things. So we are pretty active in the community as well.
Excellent.
Thanks.
I appreciate pursuing the carbon loss. I was to use
Lovely there, Catherine. This isn't a person, just a suggestion, and, maybe I noticed that the round trip coming from Logan is $800. So I don't know if you've ever thought of taking the train. Especially going.
Oh, into Logan. Actually, what I was looking at was Peter Pan bus would actually be cheaper. So that's one thing. I can certainly look at the train. That might be a good option too. I didn't realize that. I thought the train was only in the summer. You mean into Logan, right?
No, I'm talking about, like, you have to get the students like the Providence Amtrak station, Amtrak, to like Washington DC. Or if you go to another city center, sometimes it's the time that you spend on the train is the time you get into Logan and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm kind of having a hard time. It's coming in garbled, unfortunately.
But Peter Pan bus would never have been a good option as well.
So
I think she's taking a train to Washington DC.
We had looked into that option. But I think it is because we're going with a tour company now. They're going to bundle in, and they can get us the flight cheaper.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve the trip to the National Junior Honor Society to Washington DC.
Second. Okay, moving to second, and any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. We're opposed? Okay, Leslie.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Appreciate it.
Next, we have the trip to Quebec. Principal Cohen is going to talk about it.
Yeah, so Quebec trip has been going on for a number of years now. Similar itinerary to previous trips that you've approved. Our French teacher, Marie-Francois, couldn't be here because she's at an open house at Wellfleet Elementary School for her daughter. So she left this in my hands. I can't do it the same justice that she would, but it is an amazing trip. Kids in 7th grade that take French participate. Typically, just about every student in the French program does go. So, somewhere around 35 to 45 students, depending on the year, travel to Quebec and get to kind of test out the use of their very early stages of French language. Kids rave about it. I was just meeting with some students today about some other things, and they bringing up some of the memories of the trip. So it's an outstanding opportunity for them to get out of the country in an affordable way. I think this year we've got basically the way these tour companies work often is you get X number of students to go, you get, you know, 1 or 2 chaperones free. And so I think that's been reduced from a threshold of 22 students for each free one chaperone that we get to down to 20, which is great. So it's the same tour company as the past, so we're very confident with them. Last year we had to get in touch with the team while they were up there. Very accessible, very easy to do. They were able to connect us right away, even though they were like out and about in the city. So really easy access and a great tour group to make this experience happen for our seventh graders. So we're seeking your approval once again this year for this trip.
Any questions? No? I'm disappointed that you didn't make your presentation in French, but that I would not do it. So.
Right.
Okay, need a motion?
Move you accept the trip as presented to Quebec. The shame they're not going up to the Carnival, is the only thing. You get the Carnivals, well, their language still might not be there yet.
Second, is there moving second, anything else? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then the last trip is, Dan, Anthony, there you are. You wanna go to Disney World, huh?
Who wouldn't want to, am I right? Our trip that we have planned for us is a full performing arts department at the high school trip, including band, chorus, orchestra, jazz band, percussion, and the dramatic arts as well. We are using the travel company called Bob Rogers Travel, which they were actually founded by a music teacher who was frustrated with how travel companies were handling music trips specifically. And so Bob Rogers started a company specifically to help music departments do travel trips that included performance and workshops and were full of educational opportunities. So we've worked with them before when we went to Atlanta in 2017 and when there were New York and Montreal trips in 2015 as well. Fantastic, worked with them. I did a preview trip with them this spring. And so we got a walking tour of both Disney and Universal. They combined them together so that teachers and trip planners could see exactly the locations where students would be staying, get itineraries of various workshops, things like that. So it was a great experience and really worth it to kind of plan for what we're going to do with this trip. So the idea behind the trip is we'd be heading out before April vacation. We're looking to not conflict with both the early April Easter holiday, and then there's also an England trip planned for over April vacation. So we're sandwiched in the weekend in between. April 8th, we would leave, fly down, return April 13th, the next Monday. And the plan is to have opportunities to perform at certain venues. At the main one is at Disney Springs, which is their public-facing kind of shopping area that has loads of entertainment opportunities, stores, attractions, things like that. And then we would have workshops at various venues, either in the parks or at Disney Springs as well. Workshops can include movie scoring. It can include performance clinics with various staff at Disney. As I'm sure many of you know, the production quality at Disney is top tier. Their performers in the parks are absolutely incredible. And they have this whole package dedicated to bringing schools and departments down to Disney and also out to Disneyland as well. But yeah, so the plan is to go into Florida. And then there's opportunities to enjoy the parks on days when there aren't workshops and performances as well. So I know we've had a lot of conversation about trip costs and fundraising. The estimated cost right now before anything would be about $2,000 per person, which is a very hefty sum. We've been discussing the possibility of this with students since last year, in the hopes of encouraging students to start to plan ahead for it. Our Music Boosters has been putting together a whole slew of fundraisers to support as many students as possible, both a blanket discount for every student provided by the boosters, as well as providing support for individual students who may be more needy than others. And so I anticipate you will see them and possibly me again with some fundraising approvals for the winter and spring. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else I have. We are working with a travel agent to iron out details of the itinerary. The flight cost can be very variable, especially that time of year. And one of my goals would be that we maximize the number of participants on the trip to minimize the cost. So if we're going to fill one coach bus with approximately, 57 people, because that's how much it takes to move, that we would, rather than get a second coach bus, possibly have additional, like a 12-passenger van for transportation, for chaperones, things like that, which again, Bob Rogers has covered these details time and time again. They also have means to allow us to rent some instruments while we're down there, which would be far cheaper than trying to lug perhaps an entire drum set onto into Logan Airport and out. So they really do have all of the details covered, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. So I had a draft itinerary that we were glancing through that they adapted for us for those dates from another school that's taking a similar trip. But it just doesn't have the specifics filled in of which park you're going to or which specific workshop you're going to. But there'd be 2 days with workshops, 2 days with performances, depending on which groups are able to go and perform, which does involve a recording process that we will be going into this fall, recording our groups to present a video for performance down there. And the opportunity is for all the students to go. So even if one particular group isn't able to perform, that we would find ways for everybody to participate while they're down there, which would be very exciting. So I believe, the last thing I had put on here as well is that we're intentionally missing the end of the third quarter. I worked with Pat to confirm dates so that it is very minimal hit to academic time, because we would be missing at least 3 days of school. And then the last piece of it is this is the kind of trip that we would only take once every 4 years or so. So this is a really special trip for kids who would join our department and plan to be in it for 4 years, whether performing in the drama program or in chorus or band, etc. And so we really want to make sure that we can get everybody to go. So we have high hopes for all of our fundraisers. And I know already I have some students who've been saying that they've been putting away a little bit to make sure that they can plan ahead for it. So yeah, that's all the details I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Sure, thank you. This sounds like an exciting trip, and it sounds like it's for all age students, all grades. Great.
Yes, freshmen through seniors.
Perfect. So what I'm missing on the form though is the formal name of the company. So could you, I don't know if it's appropriate to have, approve it tonight, but can it be resubmitted with the name of the company that you're using? And the itinerary?
Absolutely. I'd also be happy to provide, once we get a more specific draft itinerary, I'm happy to come and do updates as well.
Thank you.
Chris, and so you won't be there during spring break, school vacations? I just know Disney gets crazy.
Yeah, so we're intentionally missing April vacation on purpose for 2 reasons. The first is it is the most expensive time to go. Obviously flights and also park tickets. It's one of their top spots. And they, what is it? Surge pricing or whatever they have, where, the best time to go is like the second week of September, because that's the cheapest when everyone's at school. So it would be the week before, straddling the weekend prior to that first weekend of April vacation. So I think Easter Sunday is April 3rd. And then the next weekend we would be down there. We'd leave a couple days before and come back a couple days after. And then the weekend after that is the very beginning of April vacation. There's also a select group of students going to England, which actually we overlap a few students who would also be interested in going to Disney. But that trip is already over April vacation. So we didn't want to exclude students from having to choose between one or the other. And it is just a little bit cheaper to come off of April vacation overall.
Just have a question. The England trip is the trip with also the music students? So the music students, is it the orchestra that's going to England, or who's going to England?
I believe it's a small group with, I believe, is it Mr. Kelly, Mr. Clark?
So you met Noel Smith and Paul Kelly in the history and the English department. It's Shakespeare oriented, it's humanities
So
oriented.
this isn't the,
Disassociated from the music.
so this necessarily isn't the music trip that they used to do to Ireland a couple years ago?
No.
So is the Disney trip replacing the Ireland trip that they used to do, the orchestra traveling? Like, is that the concept that the orchestra is doing?
Yes, so the Ireland trip was the entire music department that went 2000 and I can't remember, 2015 maybe. That was right before I started working at Nrsc. We also attempted to go to Ireland about a week after COVID shut us down. And so this would be that type of trip, a larger trip that typically costs about $2,000 because you'd be flying, location, destination, all that stuff. The Ireland trip was actually, I think, $2,800, and because international travel. So this is the type of cycle that we like to do. Is we like to do a big trip every 4 years if possible, so that our ensembles get a chance to go and perform in a unique venue. I believe in 2007, the department also went to Disney, which was at one of the heights of the size. I don't remember how many numbers, but Mr. Ferris, he has a banner hanging in the old office that was a 2007 Disney trip that was very successful. And he said it was one of his favorite trips that he's been on. I think second only to that Ireland trip.
For the other department, so you're talking English and history just happened to have the trip planned at the same time, but we're trying to bring back our sort of big music trip. Yeah.
Yep.
We're trying to figure out if we've ever heard about that. I vaguely remember something about the trip to.
Paul Kelly came in the spring and gave an overview and had most of the details worked through, and then said he would move back when they finalized the detail of the agenda. He's a history teacher who's well traveled.
This summer, apparently. Plus the fly is. Thanks. Okay, yes, so any other questions, whatever?
I move to approve the request.
Okay,
Second.
then moved and seconded, anything else? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's approved, and Dan, it would be good if you came back, when you've got the details, so we could build it with the cost, the tour group and everything else. That would really.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Thank you for your effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a policy in our packets, that's JJH, late night and overnight school sponsored student travel. So that policy is still in existence, so I just wanted to make sure that the principals have a copy of that, so that when they are working with their teachers to create these trips, that you look those over, to make sure that all of the things that are in that policy are being met. Just
one quick question to that. So the 6 points that you see in the one pager that's being provided matches that document. And then what has generally been the agreement in the past is some details like specific pricing for flights happen as you get closer. So the idea was, working with Arlene, that we would have as detailed as we can at the point of acceptance. And then we would have perfectly detailed as the process moved along. So if you look at, say, the 6 areas that Dan commented on, it matches the form that you're referencing because we pulled that off and dusted it off last year.
So that we do have Cory check on all bus drivers and vehicles and the parents, so
Oh, should I-
anybody who's come. Alright, so because it is fairly detailed, so, and that's all we have, we don't have a form yet. So hopefully the other proposal I'd like to make is whether staff can create.
We'll be working on, we would like to get some kind of form, it'd be easier for everybody if you knew what to put into it, and then we would make sure that we were getting what we wanted, so we will,
There has been forms, I mean, there has been forms, over
yeah.
the years, how much anything is official, but it was a form and everyone would use it for sure.
I think it got lost, so we're gonna have to dust it out. Okay, thanks. Good luck, good day. Oh, and by the way, the boosters, the music boosters, I personally miss the Christmas trees. If they're looking for ideas.
I will tell you, they have gotten ridiculously expensive recently. And believe it or not, I heard that it is due to 15 years ago, there was a huge lull in planting due to economic recession. And that's about what's hitting them right now. All of the huge Canadian tree farms are a little light right now. And so they're going through phases, as most world economy does. So it's something on the list to revisit if it ever becomes slightly more reasonable. But it was looking at trees that were over $100 for not impressive. So we'd like to bring it back if possible. We have some other ideas, including a Christmas tree disposal service, which could be a great opportunity. I know the Falmouth Music Department has had great success with that at the other end of the Cape. So we've been chatting with them to see if that's a possibility to bring out to our end for this winter. So it's on the list, just not, I don't think this year, unfortunately.
Thanks. Okay, so now we're gonna take a little bit of a change and take something out of, that's in report. We have a new, middle school student rep. It's going to be coming to our meetings. Do you want to make the introductions?
Sure, yeah, Maisie Callahan is on. Maisie is an 8th grader, really an incredible scholar, an athlete. She's on the National Junior Honor Society. She is going to DC. Yeah, hopefully going to DC in that conference. And she has agreed to take over for Savannah, and so she is here tonight to give you from the student's perspective how the start of the year has gone.
Good, Nancy, welcome. Can you hear us? There she is.
Hi.
Okay.
So as Dr. Cohen said, I'm Maisie, the new NRMS correspondent. So with the beginning of school, the kids have been sorted into houses or teams, which everyone is really excited about to show school spirit. So they're sorted into 4 houses, and the 6th graders will stay here all through their 3 years. So everyone's really excited about that. That was done late last week. And then also with the start of school, a bunch of clubs have been started. So we have the drama club did auditions yesterday and more today for their new musical Beetlejuice Jr. Earlier this week, the athletics clubs did their tryouts and have started practicing. Volleyball is a new sport this year. Everyone's really excited. I think there were 40 tryouts, but they could only take a certain amount, so they had to cap it off, but it's very popular. Also the NRMS crew did tours over the summer for the uprising for the 6th graders now. And throughout the school year, they will be helping tours in the open houses and stuff like that. And that's for 7th and 8th graders. And then more clubs will start up next week.
Wow. So Maisie, how excited are you to be back at school?
I definitely miss it over the summer. I like the routine of it and I like seeing everybody every day. This year, especially for 8th grade, I'm excited because there's a bunch of new opportunities like the houses, 8th graders can run for team captains. The Nrsc crew is new this year as well. So it's just new opportunities, and being here with the last year of my class is really exciting before kids branch off into different schools. So yeah.
So you're at the top of the ladder now, right?
Yeah, it's crazy to believe.
Okay, just make sure you don't fall off that ladder.
Oh, I hope not. I mean, once I get to high school, I guess I'm kind of I reset.
And so almost like an experience.
I'm sorry.
Anything else? Anything else to me? Well, Macy, welcome to the Nauset Regional School Committee.
Thank you.
And we will see you in October.
Yeah. Thank you.
You might have fun on top of that ladder.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so now we go to something more serious. Can you top her report?
No. Just gotta get a little more giddy.
Okay, Greg Lavasser is here to give us the building update.
Yes, good evening. Good to see everybody in person. I've been saying that for months. Zoom calls just take the life out of me. Anyways, so thanks very much for the invite. So phase 2, which is buildings A, B, C, and D. They're not placed in that order, but that's the way they are. It's about 80% done. Phase 2 is a much smaller part of the project, about 40% versus 60% last year. But there's still a lot of the same details. Interior finishes, systems being up and running, elevators, all that stuff is still part of the project. So what's happening now is that the biggest holdup, quite frankly, has been the HVAC system, which you can't close up the buildings and you can't test anything until it's up and running. So as of today, the final piping to get the HVAC system up and running will be done within the next 10 work days. I won't say business days because it's different for them. So by the 3rd week of this month, the system will be connected. All the connections will be done. The system will have been flushed. Now, all the piping treated for any kind of contamination, any kind of defects, or any kind of debris that's left inside the pipes gets flushed out. Then the pipes have to be treated with a metal conditioner so they won't rust, that type of thing. And then they're filled with a glycol, an antifreeze system, which actually is the media that gets heated and cooled. Once that is done, then the testing of the system begins in earnest. So all the units in each classroom, in each hallway, the fan coil units are tested. They have to be all the air let out, so there's no air pockets and everything. That takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get those squared away as well. So by first week of October, the buildings will be able to be heated and cooled. The system that controls them, the thermostats, will be up and running. So it's going to be a much different campus than it will be as it is today. We have, as I've been showing you daily reports, we have a smaller work crew, but that's, as I said to Glenn earlier, so that's a blessing in disguise. With fewer people walking around, the folks who have to have access to a large space, the ceiling tile people, the flooring guys, they really need to have a lot of space to lay out the flooring first. So it comes in these rolls. They have to unroll it and let it flatten out in one room as they're working in another room. So they're working really great on that. They're finishing the 2nd floor B building today. A building, 2nd floor is already done. Then they do the connecting stairways. They do the 1st floor, because the 1st floor gets most traffic because people run from building to building. So right now there's the 1st floor B building. So they're in the video lab studio, the old library hallways, and into the nurses station. The media center itself, which is that large room with the bridge overhead, is kind of like their storage room right now. So there's dozens of rolls of flooring for every place else. So as they're working out of that, they're gonna do that place as well. The same thing over in D building, the old auditorium, the media center, the gallery is also the storage area for all the rolls and stuff, but upstairs are 80% done, all the classrooms, hallways. The connectors between the buildings is also done, that's carpeted, so those are done. The push on the next week is to get the gallery stairs, the Google stairs I've shown you pictures, that's been prepped, so they're gonna start doing that, that's all carpeted. So that's gonna be a real plus to get that squared away. The painting is about 75% done. Yeah, we come to an agreement that they won't paint everything finished until the place is finished. The painters will be like the last group in. Last time it was like the painters like the first group in, and they damaged the heck out of it for weeks, and we just went ballistic. So we kind of flipped that around, so that's good. So as of today, the electrical contractor bumped into the worker on the site, the foreman. He was basically standing right, he's 95% done. He was there alone, basically waiting for people to let him know that something wasn't working, so go fix it. So he's almost on his way out the door, so that's good to know. The ceiling people about 85% done. We do everything up there, we have a couple of issues, how to tie things in, make sure it works properly, so we're working with them. The plantings are working really nicely, so a lot of plantings are in, they're coming back next week because some of the plantings have passed away, because they haven't survived, but they should have. We haven't had a lot of rain, and some of the trees were replanted. This is the optimal time of year to do it. Some of the smaller bushes have been replanted. Like different things going on. The contractor finally kind of threw up his hands and said, we're gonna have to start watering these things, so they're by contract have to give us something that's alive and kicking. So they rented what's called a water buffalo machine that goes around, fills these huge tanks, and they go along around the property and water everything so that they will sprout. We kind of joked with the young gentleman who was the on-site supervisor, Liam Madden, today, that he's been watering for things a week now. He's starting to see little bits of growth, which makes him really happy. So that's good. So that's what's happening with phase 2. At 4 o'clock today, the state elevator inspector was on site. We haven't heard the report yet, but that's one of those critical milestones that we need to have done. There's only 6 or 7 inspectors in the state of Massachusetts for elevators, so if you get them on schedule and you get them there, you make sure everything's hunky-dory so they don't have to come back and reschedule things. So hopefully everything went well with that inspection. When I left campus around 5:30, they hadn't had the report yet, so maybe tomorrow we'll find out. So that's where the project is going along well. People are excited to see the progress and the updates. So the piping on the roofs, like I said, is coming along very nicely. Since the quote-unquote summer work has been put on the shelf because summer's over, the crew that was in G building doing some piping for the HVAC, they've been moved over. So there are now 2 welding crews on the roof, so that is progressing much faster. So, and of course, we reminded them that the days are getting shorter sunlight-wise, so you're gonna pick up the pace soon, and that's what's gonna happen. So that's a big plus right there. So as far as that goes, it's been an exciting couple of weeks, a couple of weeks to go, as things move along. So, yeah, there's still a lot of things to do, but the checklist gets shorter every day. And remind folks that phase 2 is a lot different because it was acknowledged today in the meeting that this is a lot different. We are not rushing in and rushing out. So more things will be completely finished before we are occupying the space, which is probably sometime early November. We can have a substantial completion of the project, which means we can take over certain parts of the project. So that'll be a good plus. We're still looking at the final move over the Christmas holiday. That'll be the best time to move, but again, this is a shorter move because most of the stuff that goes in phase 2, furniture-wise, is sitting in launch list. Well, there's not a lot of new furniture in phase 2. A lot of it's existing, been there before, so it's already, there's a lot of things that have been stored already on campus for different programs. In the 2 dressing rooms in that building are all the instruments for the program in one of the other buildings in D building. So yeah, a lot of things are already there. We don't have to wait on things to be delivered at that thing. So yeah, it's been a great couple of weeks, and we're off to the races.
Good, okay, any questions for?
Quick comment.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what a great idea it was to postpone the move. I think it disappointed people at first, but you're right. You're gonna be able to move in and it'll be yours. So does that mean that you're expecting to get the certificate of occupancy in December?
City occupancy is going to be, dependent upon all the engineering affidavits being done. We will get that for substantial completion, but there are always some fine details that hold off from the end. So we haven't had that discussion with the building inspector yet, because we're just waiting for the affidavits now. Keep in mind, after my folks said, we still have some affidavits from phase one that are not complete, and that's a year and 2 months already. So, yeah, so there's a lot of paperwork that's to that's where we are at. So it'll be fun to do. And I'm not sure when you want me to start talking about modulars. It's up to you.
Where are we standing on the charging stations at the school? Where is that?
Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the charging stations are like the black sheep of the family. So 3.5 years ago, I was sent some paperwork from the architect said Eversource, our electrical supplier, had a grant program that said if you applied for these grants, they would pay for the installation of EV charging stations for cars for both parking lots, student and faculty. And that we, as the building project, would follow the contractor's work. They would bill us, the building project would pay the subcontractor and the general contractor for the work. And at the end, those bills would be submitted to Eversource and the grants would repay us. The problem arose about 9 months ago that Eversource said, oh, part 2 of the grants, we're not doing anymore. End of story. So the part of the grant that was gonna pay for final hookups and the final installations went away. So we looked at all different ways of trying to finish it, Chris. The fact of the matter is, to finish it, the building project, we need to come up with, the last number we have is $167,000 to finish the EV stations, but we don't have the funding for it because the funding comes from the grant and there's no grant to pay us back. So, right now, the whole thing is on hold. If we're lucky, I get a lottery ticket and we hit the lottery, I'm glad to give it to the EV program, to get that squared away, but again, we should try to prioritize where the money goes, Chris. So if there's something comes along, we're glad to work at that. We looked at potentially having somebody other than the general contractor do it locally, but that number came in at about $130,000. So even so, it's a big chunk of money. So, and when we have a better handle on where we are, get back to you. But I know it's an issue, but again, it was never designed as something that we were carrying a budget for, or something we paid and we get like a revolving fund, basically. And the revolving fund stopped revolving. So that's where we are.
So there's no wires to the stanchions?
No, we pulled a permit that we are not required to have any EV chargers as part of the program. If the permit had been pulled 9 months later, then it would have been required. As part of the project, maybe part of the original funding, the whole role changed completely, 9 months after we did the project, so, yeah.
Thank you.
So essentially what I'm hearing is that during your proposal, the budget was not put in the request for those EV stations. So when you did the overarching project,
Yes,
you presented the project with EV stations, you did not include a budget for the stations.
we included project budget based on the grants that were available.
So my understanding, when you do capital projects like this through towns and you get town funding, you give the amount regardless of whether or not you are receiving grant funding. So generally speaking, when you get approval for a project, you're asking for the largest amount with the anticipation of getting grant funding. So I'm hearing you did the opposite.
No, that's not quite right. So let me just, it's a fine distinction where we are. So again, there's a grant that was applied for through Eversource as the district was a separate entity from the total building project budget.
So when you did a proposal and you presented the project to the school, it did not include the charger station.
It included our portion of spending the money if we were gonna get paid back, which is why we stopped. working on it because we don't
I
have.
understand all that, but I also know that when projects get approved, you usually do a full budget amount, regardless of whether or not there was grant money going to be granted and approved. So when I have seen multiple projects go before town meetings, they usually will say, when you go to the ballot, you're voting on an amount.
Yep.
And in the anticipation you get grant money, that's fantastic, and then the budget that is sort of charged to the taxpayer gets reduced
Yes,
in anticipation. But what I'm hearing is the proposal that went in did not include the full cost of the charging station.
That's correct, that's correct. And so, it wasn't, when we first talked about it, so, and funding, the charging stations were not part of the plan, in that it wasn't part of the budget, but it was part of the plan, and then it was assumed every sort of on program, and it was gonna get done via that. And so it's been this, I mean, I know you've been working on it for quite a while here, and it's a shame we're gonna end up with a school that doesn't have charging stations, and maybe funds will become available in the future, but it wasn't part of the budget for the building. And part of it was because it was all over the place, right? It was tough to get the numbers for what it was gonna cost.
so the only qualification I can tell you is that when the contractor bid on the project and gave us the numbers that we went to the towns with, the contractor language had a specific section in there that you were bidding on installing this system at the high school. But you were gonna be tracking it separately because the funding for it was in a separate account. So it was part of the project in the sense that it was included in the specifications. There was plans that showed pictures of where they're going to go and how they're going to get there. What it did not have, as I said, was a complete, fully funded project on that particular unit because there was grant funding from somebody else. It's a fine distinction, it's not a sleight of hand, it's nothing that was misrepresented, it's just the complexity of this project. And
Not necessarily think it's misrepresented, but I do think that most people are not going to understand that if we as a town have to go back, or as a school committee have to go back and say, we're now asking for additional funding. If the perception is, we approved a plan that had a station in it. So I'm not saying what you did was a misrepresentation, but as a person who may not understand what you're talking about and the fine lines and the separation, if we're wanting to put in those stations, we as a school committee now have to go to the towns and say, the grant money wasn't available, we're now asking them for funding to put the stations live.
I would disagree that the school committee would have to go back to the towns for more money. The building committee is, I said, working hard to find a way to do this. So, and I would have a hard time understanding anybody who was able to vote on the project, understand that buried in this 22,000 pages of specifications and hundreds of pages of actual plans, that they would be able to find EV stations and out there with them. My other point is that the whole project is going to get done and going to be finished as I said, on time. So the other part of this whole project is that there are other grants that are coming. So, part of the whole is that we have a grant at the end of the project from Cape Light Compact because of the equipment we're putting in based on how energy efficient it is. So that is another source of income that eventually, when that's squared away, that audit will come sometime next year after the project is done and up and running, and we can prove to them and show them how efficient the heating and cooling system is. That grant will also be given to the district for whatever it needs to do, whatever it wants to do with based on the parameters of that grant. So there's a lot of pieces out there that are meshed together, and our job is to oversee all of them put together. But the one about the EV stations, they're, I said, on hold, because right now we have other priorities that are more demanding as far as funding, that are more critical to getting the project done and more critical to making the place work.
Okay, thanks.
And then, just lastly, I say that, in talking with other town officials in other towns, they have EV chargers for their project. And because their companies are vendors that are hardly in business anymore, they mostly don't work. The ones at East Ham Town Hall, I'm told, are problematic. The vendors not around. I mean, prior to this, Leave Town Williams had issues with some of theirs as well. So again, they're nice to have, but they have their own headaches to go with it. So that's kind of where we are. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you for your report. Yeah, more,
I am happy to keep my eyes open for some great opportunities too, in case you guys do that. There's a variety in my mind that come up, so I'm happy to do that, pass them on if I see anything. And one quick comment, as the parent of, as an Uber driver for a 15-year-old, and I'm there multiple times a day on campus, it looks amazing. So thank you, both of you and your teams. The whole flow of the traffic is amazing now, you know, coming around, going through the parking lot, coming around front, getting to the back field is a whole different ballgame, so it's like, you know, night and day from from the end of last year. All to be expected, but even the signage, I love your signs up there. It's all coming together really nicely, so.
I will give kudos to Pat and his school council. Was it 5 months ago I met, 6 months ago? We met in the cafeteria. And the school council, we went back and forth in a little conversation. And one of the parents said, you know, it'd be great if when we get to the tennis courts, we didn't have to make a 3-point turn to get out.
Yeah.
Would you do something about that? And I said, sure. And we did. So as you saw, it was repaved. We added a road, we added a piece of sidewalk to make it more usable by everybody who's on campus. Again, the plans are in 2 dimensions and the place is in 3 dimensions and it's used differently than it was envisioned years ago. So I think that it's fun to do that.
That looks great.
And parents are no better at 3-point turn. Anyone watching? I'll support that. I've seen it a million times. And we are not great at 3-point turns. It's new word. Okay, yes, you say that, you know.
okay, great. All right, thanks for all of that. It's exciting, it's an exciting time. There's some people that wondered if we'd ever get here,
Yes,
but, not me, I wouldn't.
I know that.
But still on the subject of the building, we want to go to the modulars.
Yeah, I'll step in and I'll start off. But just first to echo those great words about the campus, I was over there today, we too were visiting Pat, but that, you know, you've seen this building come to life, it's like, yeah, we want to get used to what you're seeing, because I know I have a new fresh set of eyes, but that thing is phenomenal. That campus is unbelievable. And Pat and I said, there's got to be awards coming this way, that, so I don't know how that works, I don't know who's on the selection committee, but you should be so proud of the work that went into this project. It is unbelievable. So it's exciting and it's coming together every week and a seamless opening and kudos to Pat and his team for making that possible. I've heard that many times over. But staying on the high school project, there is a memo in your packet, for those that may follow along with the business of the committee at home, regarding the modular classrooms, and I'll quickly set this up and certainly, I'm great to add to this, but one of the things that I learned, fairly early on in my tenure here relative to this project is an important decision needed to be made relative to the modular classroom. If you know that campus, if you didn't, you know that there's not just a couple of modules, there's many. It really a smart and certainly important move that I think was undertaken to help facilitate the timeline of this construction project and undoubtedly reducing the overall costs, right? Time is money and so on. But as I've come to learn, the time is coming quickly that corresponds with the conclusion of this project regarding those modular classrooms. And in short, and as tried to be as outlined in this memo, they cannot remain there. And a decision ultimately by this committee has to be made. And we've explored this with council, that rests with this committee. So much of the decision making, of course, with the project rests with the building committee, but this is a little different. We should try to outline this here. The number of modulars that we're talking about, some information relative to their age and their condition. As some of you or many of you might recall, these were, as I understand, they were not brand new modular classrooms. Also, again, a testament to some great thinking around where could we find great elements modular classrooms, and that's what you did, and certainly undoubtedly saved a lot of money in that process. But a decision has to be made, and as outlined in the memo, there's been efforts to this point in time to try and sell those units, but to no avail. And so as the end of the project comes closer, this project, as I understand it, cannot come to full completion until the modulars are removed and the final work on that area of the site is up to the standards and such and specifications that were outlined in the original documents. So this memo here is for you to provide an outline for this site, and I'll let Greg add anything else here, maybe I didn't highlight, but as noted in the memo, unless something materializes in the next short window of time, and there is somebody that comes forward and says, we're interested in purchasing those. This, as hard as it is, maybe to wrap your head around, and I can appreciate that, this is a declaration of surplus ultimately. As community members, those kind of things come before you frequently, the declaration of an old TV, an old computer, an old desk. This is a little bit different, but at the end of the day, it falls into a category that this is property that the committee owns. And if there's no longer use for it, you need to make a declaration of surplus. So what did I forget in all of that, Greg? And add to that, I'm sure I forgot something there.
Oh, okay. The history of the modular classrooms in the construction business is called swing space. It is a part of a construction project that allows you a buffer to go from occupying all the buildings to partially occupying the buildings. And your program could be held in something else while you're constructing and destructing the construction project. Originally, in our original budget years ago, the project manager was doing the Lincoln Elementary School. They had knowledge that they had these modulars that they thought at the same time, the timing would be right. So basically they put in our budget some of money, about $2 million, to take over 16 of the units of modular classrooms in the town of Lincoln. Well, things kind of dragged out with COVID and things like that. So we didn't get any funding for 2 years, but also Lincoln was the same boat that their project was languishing because of site issues. They're low land and everything's underwater all the time, so they didn't work as fast as they could. So lo and behold, we finally get some money from the towns, which was great. I was invited to go to Lincoln to meet their team, and I showed up with the superintendent and the principal, then Mr. Please, yes, Chris Elsesser. So we looked at our vehicles and looked and said, I'm sorry, there's more than 16 units here. So we asked the pointed question, why are we only looking at 16? They said, well, at the time, that's all we were gonna give up. Lincoln was gonna cut their project up differently. So we looked at each other and said, they want to get rid of them all at once. And that's what we said, if we and Nrsc were able to acquire all 37 units, including a library section, an office section, and the restroom facilities that would fit on the high school project, then the project itself, the high school building project, would be the beneficiary of the fact that we would only have to move twice. So if you think about the 16 units, that means every time a building or part of a building in phase one needs to be moved, the students would move all these times. And the construction would be dragged out. The intermingling of construction and students and education was going to be outrageous. So from our point of view, it was a great investment in the education of the students and calm and good atmosphere of the property so that things could happen in a more orderly fashion. So that's why we invested in purchasing them from the town of Lincoln. And that was an exception in the bid law in Massachusetts where two government agencies can sit at the table with no bid process. You sit and you negotiate the cost that Lincoln wanted and we were going to pay. We did that. And after that, we went out for bids to have them moved from Lincoln, brought to Nrsc and installed in Nrsc. And that's what we're using them for these days. So the issue now becomes that before Lincoln had them, they were at the Hanscom Air Force Base for their building project. So Lincoln had them for 4 years. They were there for 5 or 6. So some of these are getting long in the tooth. And they're at the point where, from my perspective, and if you look around carefully, they're come to the end of their useful life. So as I said before, the full disclaimer is that we've been trying to sell these and make them somebody else's beneficiary for swing space. But full disclosure is that because they're so in age, they now don't meet certain codes with regards to, if you're taking out, putting on your property, you have to meet the wiring code. The plumbing code's okay, we did some of that, we did some other things for our fire alarm, that type of thing, but the actual wiring inside the walls is now, not allowed for the commercial project. So somebody buying them would also have to invest in rewiring them. So that is a obstacle, to making them available for other people to use. We've had, as I said, only a couple of really, fervent people interested, but they had funding issues. And as I put out there when we first had this discussion, it's all about the timing. If you have a government entity who wants to do this, you have to go for request for proposals. You have to get some funding, you have to hire the architect, the project manager. So you're talking 6 to 9 months at least before something happens. And at that point, the window for us in the high school is closing. We're trying to get this squared away so that the time that we have substantial completion and occupancy for phase 2, we move out of the modules into phase 2, and the contractor is still on site. So that's why it's optimal for them to take over the demolition of them. And then once they're out of the way, they get to finish grading the site and planting it the way it was originally designed in our project. So it's this dance of timing and getting things squared away. So that's where we've been working at this, and hopefully this can work out, but it's a decision that's not made lightly, I get it. The school district, you folks are the owners, but they were bought through the building project because the district had no funding. So there's our job. So we purchased those and here we are. So I think that's all the highlights and lowlights, depending on how you look at it. Thank you.
So a couple of questions. First off, is there any salary value to them? Would we large salary with a lot of metal? I know there's.
That would actually go to the demolition of them. So the estimate we have, Chris takes that into effect that they know how much metal there is as far as the ductwork, the air conditioning units on the roof, whatever wiring comes out of those, they separated that out. Mostly it's the wood frame, and the actual chassis that the trailers run. See, steel is like mobile home trailers chassis, it's just steel, and that would be part of the contractor, the demolition contractor, probably Mr. Vinagro out of Rhode Island, and they take all this stuff and they recycle it, and some stuff they can't recycle. So yeah, that's already figured into the cost of we have for the demolition, the estimate we have.
So the contractor is paid to do the demolition, or who we have a price, right? And what is his estimate?
It's Great Builders is the general contractor.
Yeah.
The gentleman, the group of subcontractors doing all the demolition is J.R. Vinagro out of Rhode Island. So they demolish all the buildings, anything that had to be torn down or dug up and things like that. That's their team that does that. And they would be coming back to work with the site work. So the timing for them to come and take the modules away, finish the site work that's what we're trying to get squared away.
And what is the estimate for?
The cost estimate we're at right now is $248,000, and I'm rounding up by a couple $100.
That's better than the talk shows.
Well, we're carrying a number for years, but sometimes, again, the timing, we were surprised it came in that low, but again, they're still on campus. They're still engaged with us. So again, their point was, yeah, the timing is great. However, the other shoe to drop is if you wait too long and we've demobilized, then all bets are off. So.
Sure, so when this decision making, it was like October 19th, and every decision by that fits in with the builders and the demolition company. Are all 80, all 37 from the same age? Are there any of them that are younger that we still have some in them?
There are some that are younger, but they're mixed in together. So I have to call out that when Lincoln had them on their property, the configuration was different. The footprint was different.
Yeah.
Because their piece of land was basically an athletic field. So it was nice and flat and open. So when we get to Nrsc, we didn't have an athletic field available to take over. So we put them, as you know, in the northwest corner of the property, which was overgrown with trees and mounds of dirt and a big sinkhole, a huge depression. So we had to regrade and make that work, and our property line with our neighbors is roughly maybe 20 feet away from the back door. So we had to turn around and flip the system that Lincoln had, basically rotated 180 degrees so it fit in us. So if you think about the notches that have that long wing, us is facing east, and Lincoln, I was facing west. So everything had to be turned around, so west and stuff. So that was part of the cost of getting it down here. So, yeah, as far as, like I said, I'm not sure which one ended up where. There is a tag on the chassis of how old it is and where it came from, that type of thing. But again, they're all on average 8 to 9 years old, some a bit older. And that's where we are.
So there's nothing that could be reused at all.
Again, it's interesting in that the people mostly who contacted us have said, well, we'd like to get one or two. Okay, then the question becomes, which one or two do you want? And by the way, this system you have to think about in multiple dimensions is that one of the trailers, one of the modular units is 17 feet wide by 30 feet long. To make a room, you need two of them, because the modular has one wall in the middle, it's not there. So you need two of them. So that means you have a room that's 32 feet wide by 30 feet long. So that makes a lot of classrooms. So at that point, which ones do you take away? And once you take them away, then you have a building that you have on the property that is open to the weather. So you have a gaping hole, the electrical system is turned off, with, there's a bunch of cut loose, the plumbing's cut loose, that type of stuff. So then the issue of liability comes into play. And having done this 30 years ago, at the other project, we had the same issue. There were some modulars that languished and took forever to get rid of it. So it's not a great situation. And once the building project is done, then technically the town of Eastham says those are temporary buildings. You have to shut them down, which means, okay, no electricity, no water. And then once you have these buildings that have very little insulation and cold weather hits, what happens is that the floor tiles start popping because everything starts to shrink. I mean, it becomes something that's really, I think, like really not worth bothering with.
So there's no dream of creating an early childhood center somewhere on one of our campuses.
No, I asked one person today, they were quite interested in doing it, but they looked at it and said, hey, the timing's wrong, they don't have the funding, it would be sometime next year. And even then, when I explained what I just said, full disclosure, they went, oh, okay, so yeah, it would make it more expensive and less attractive. The fact that they have been through the mill type of thing, and I get it, you know. So if you think about the student body in high school, those occupy 500 or 600 kids per day, back and forth. That's a lot of footsteps, that's a lot of doors opening and closing, and a lot of use, and a lot of abuse. So yeah, they've done their job.
Okay, anything else? So, if I can get this right, the building committee is going to come back to us at our October 9th meeting with a recommendation.
Yes.
And guys, with some details on what's gonna happen, how much it's gonna cost, everything else.
Right, and just to note that this memo has, I have learned the town managers, administrators in the respective towns, and this is here again, this was with intention not to spring this on you, see, so, it's an unusual type of request, but, thought that it would be important to, kind of wrap your head around this is where it's at. If folks are interested and they come forward, then we'll certainly entertain that and walk them through it, but, there's some intricacy here to this, and certainly some costs, and I think that's one of the people often are not aware, because they're very expensive to purchase, they're very expensive to move and set up. That's just the reality.
We'll just hate to see them go into a landfill.
Well, they served us well, so we.
Oh, I don't need to serve the landfill. Yeah,
I think that'd be recycled, that would be the ideal,
Yeah.
You get recycled as much as you can.
Alright, we have one more building committee issue. We need new members. Right,
Yes. I need a full compliment, please, Glenn.
We have, you have an appointment, so we need the vote of this committee. Anytime that there's adjustments to the building committee, we have to go on button. And that's school building authority. And so, new director of finance, Duane, who's here tonight, we're looking for your vote to appoint him to the committee, as well as Tony and Nannini. You just want to speak to Tony, like, he was originally on the committee, but then, is that right?
Yes, he was on the committee, and at that point, district card facilities director, they swapped places. Bob was put on, Tony moved away, so again, we had to keep the odd number of 17 folks rather than having 18, and we have so many deadlocked votes that we want to make sure that we didn't have that one place, but that's what happened 3.5 years ago roughly, so with the moving on of the former superintendent, business manager, assistant business manager, I basically had 2 vacancies, and be nice to have them back so that we have a full complement of folks and get everything up and running again, so, yeah.
So Tony is replacing Brooke?
Glenn replaced Brooke.
I was gonna say.
Dwayne's replacing, excuse me, Giovanna, and Tony replacing Jim Nowak.
Oh, okay,
Okay, so do you need these on 2 separate motions or could it be under one motion?
It's one motion.
So can I move to appoint Duane Esteves and Anthony Nannini to the Nauset Regional High School Building Committee?
Second.
Moved and seconded, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, it's passed, Duane, you're on.
Teacher that mentioned.
No, we made it. Right, thank you for your report, as always. We plan to see you back here, not for October 19th, but soon thereafter.
I understand, I hope to be part of it as well, thank you very much.
Okay, so, yes,
Okay.
we'll see you back here.
Fine, great,
All right.
thank you very much. Good day. Have a good day.
Okay, chair's report, I'm looking at the time, I don't have that much anyway. I'm gonna go through this, I only have 2 items very quickly. One, our special education stabilization fund. Last year, we asked all 4 towns to put, a warrant article at their Springtown meeting, to approve a special education stabilization fund. 3 of the 4 towns did, Eastham, don't know what happened, it didn't make it. And I have to say, I erroneously thought that meant we didn't have it, and we had to wait for another year. Didn't follow up on it, at the time, this was May. We had a lot of things going on in May. And in the school year, the superintendent leaving, and I didn't think there was any money because we were going and looking for, that was getting our 250,000 out of E&D. So I just kind of put it out of my mind. Well, come to find out, we only need 3 of the 4 towns to approve it. 3 of the 4 towns have approved it. So we do have a special education stabilization fund now. And you'll see later when we get to some of the financial reports, we may have some money to put in there to seed it. That will come, this is just a heads up, just good news, we've got it. The Budget and Finance Subcommittee will take a look and come back at our next meeting with a recommendation on how much seed money we think we only have. So that's what it is. And then just very quickly, one other thing, and this is, I found this out accidentally by a letter to the editor in the Cape Cod Chronicle, thanking the Nauset Regional School Committee for cooperating with the Orleans High School alumni group and allowing them to use the middle school for their reunion. And I thought it was very nice of them to compliment us, but I knew we hadn't done anything, so I had to look into it. So Orleans High School was the new Orleans High School. This is the new one. The old one, which was built in 1874, and it had two entrances, one for girls and one for boys. I'm learning a lot here. Was across from the current town hall in Orleans. This school was built in 1940 and opened as Orleans High School, Orleans Senior High School. And it went that way until 1959. I think at that time, toward the end, there were also students from Eastham and Wellfleet, I believe. Don't know exactly. Anyway, so in 1960, the region was formed. And so Orleans High School, as Orleans High School, went away. So, but the alumni who are left, this group, all now in their 80s and 90s, are having a reunion here on Saturday. In the gym, cafeteria,
Cafeteria, I think.
someplace that has ramp access, and that's obviously it's okay.
I'll bring it back.
Yeah. So just, but if you want to know more, go to orleanshigh.com. They have a great website with great pictures of the old class. And it used to be that the seniors in high school went to Washington, not the eighth graders. So they have a picture of the first graduating class in 1940 in DC and the last one in 59 in DC. There's stories, there's memories that are shared. The shop class along with the sea explorers. And somebody said, we didn't build birdhouses in those days. They built a 42-foot catch. Great pictures of it. So it's, and by the way, just in case anybody wants to know, the high school in 1939, this building was built for $150,000. 45% of it, which was a grant from federal government. They then apparently felt rich and added another 50,000 for a gym and auditorium that also had a matching grant. So this school was originally built in 1939 for $110,000. So good investment. So if you want to know more, again, the stories are great. Orleanshigh.com. So when I saw this, I said to Maura, there must be something we can do. What can we do? Well, I don't know what we can do. Peter has already waived the facilities fee. The one thing that we could do that's left is to waive the custodial fee. And we do have the authority to do that. The custodial fee would probably be about $250 or $300 up to $300. So I would like to propose that we, make a motion, and that we waive the custodial fee for the Orleans alumni.
And can we just word it as gifted? I don't know if that's technically not appropriate, but to gift the,
No,
honor, it has to be a waiver.
It's raising, yeah.
Ceremonial. Okay, so I think that we waive the 250 or however the fee is for custodial fee for the class of.
The classes, well, not in 1940, I don't think those are around.
Whatever the neighbors are.
Up through, I think up through 659, and then, yeah,
Okay,
so.
that,
Okay, so it was seconded,
Do we know how many people are gonna attend?
there was something like over 80.
I was gonna say they all use this to add seating, but.
so
Yeah,
are the kids gonna get to, the present students gonna get to see?
It's
it?
on Saturday. yeah.
What was the picture today?
That could be a great community service event. Meaning, maybe you get just one of the clubs to bring 5 kids in on the weekend just to help them out with whatever. That could be a really nice, you know what I mean, just good and really build a relationship going forward. Is it this Saturday?
It can't be the Junior Honor Society because they're washing cars.
They don't do it.
It's in the afternoon, it's like 1:30. And the announcement, it says it's 1:30 to 4, or maybe later because sunset isn't until 6:52:14 that night. So,
This is amazing.
okay, so we'll get seconded, all in favor? Aye. Okay, Peter, you can pass that on to, Lorraine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's lots of time, you can make use of it. Okay, so that's it, so moving on. Oh, yes, the update on the property discussion with town of Orleans. Okay. I like talking about the NRMS Association better. So following up on our meeting of the 28th, when the representatives from the town of Orleans were here. I think it's probably safe to say it was left a little ambiguous as to, was there any, were we going forward, were there next steps, and if they were, what were they? So in an attempt to try to get clarification, Glenn and I, asked for a meeting with, Kevin Galligan, the chair of the select board, and Kim Newman, the town manager. So we did meet with them, and they brought also Mike Savitro, who is the assistant town planner. And apparently it was the person that was dealing with the abutters. Because let's remember, the town of Orleans sent the district a letter saying that they were interested in property acquisition. And if we were open to discussions to contact them, we did. They came here in August. So we did have the conversation. We met Tuesday, right? This is just 2 days ago, okay? And so in order to try to make sure that we're all on the same page and we were all understanding the same thing, the town manager suggested that that Kevin write a note, an email, basically saying, this is our understanding, this is what we want or not. And that I said that I would read it at tonight's meeting. And so he did, so I will read it. Dear Judy and Glenn, thank you for meeting today with Orleans Town Manager Kim Newman, Special Projects Coordinator Mike Solitro, and me to follow up on August 28th, 2025 presentation and discussion with the Nauset Regional School Committee, NRSC, regarding the proposed new Orleans Fire Rescue Station, the project. The town understands the NRSC's need for greater clarity regarding the information needed to evaluate any request for land, whether on a permanent or temporary basis, in support of the project. We also recognize the importance of the May 2026 timeframe for construction funding, which aligns with the town's plan to best utilize the existing site for the new station. As we discussed, we are hopeful that continued dialogue with all abutters will help advance the project. With the forthcoming selection of our owner's project manager and the engagement of our architect design team shortly thereafter, we will request another meeting with you to share updates and outline next steps. Thank you again for your time and willingness to engage in this important process. We look forward to continue working together with you as this project moves forward. So best regards, Kevin. So this is the email. This is not the email that I have to say that I was expecting. We actually wanted a little bit more clarity than this. Because the bottom line is really there are no next steps. They supposedly have contacted 100 abutters. I'm sure, I don't know how many they're interested in having further conversations with. I would doubt very few of those 100. And the bottom line for them, and the town manager, if I'm wrong, stated it very clearly in the meeting. Unfortunately, it's not in this email, but stated they have what they believe to be 3 or 4 viable options where to put the fire station on the current, on either where the fire station currently is on what they call town land. And so there is no interest in looking at any regional school property for use of the fire station. That's the bottom line. Unfortunately, that's not in this now, but that's what they said. So there are no next steps. So there is nothing more for us to do. As far as keeping us up to date on the project, I mean, I think that's fine, but I do not see that it's going to impact the region at all. So, done, over. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe early discussion on the redevelopment of the Elbridge Park and entrance by our parking lot.
Yes, they're going to, I believe the recreation committee that is heading that up is going to come to one of our meetings in October and make a presentation. They believe that they might ask for some easements, the utility easement for one, and possibly other easements. I think we also have to clarify where the property line is. I don't know exactly where it goes down. I don't think our property ends at with the cement or the concrete on the driveway, so we'll have to get that clarified. But the rec department currently is going in front of CPC to see if they can get CPC funds, because this project that they have is estimated at $5 million. And they would be going to the town meeting in May to ask for that. At the same time, they're going to ask for $50 million for the fire station. So I believe that they're looking for other funding first. So yes, there was discussion on that.
I thought we already approved that one.
Pardon?
I thought we approved that last time, you know,
Approved what?
the redesign of the Eldridge Parkway.
Or
Town line.
I don't know that it's been approved. It was just presented. They approved, yes, they approved $950,000 to do a design. But that's not gonna, that doesn't come near the $5 million that it's gonna cost for construction.
I think Tom has
Tom,
Yeah, so, based on Mr. Gallagher's letter, there could be a potential ask for
a temporary use of maybe land or easement or whatever for construction?
I think they don't know where how they're gonna actually get access, and they don't have a design. So they don't know how they're getting in and out, so, that might be the current road, that goes to the fire station is school property. And, they are still exploring, whether that was really, they found that there was an easement given to drainage, but maybe not a road. That's not what we're asking for that, but, so, but they've got their lawyers looking at that, but yeah, I think that would be the only thing, but.
Thank you.
Chris.
I mean, I think it's probably a good outcome, we had all these, pie in the sky, we get into track and this and that. Yeah, I mean, really, all we ever saw from them was pictures of the fire station on the lake, which is a little question. So I think it's a good outcome. Also, we had given an easement on this side, the front side of the middle school for pop.
Yeah.
The drive park.
Yes, so, our door's open. We don't have closed doors here, so if they need anything, they can. Okay. The one thing, it's getting late, we still have lots of things to do, and I'm wanting, the next thing on there is, our operational goals and orders of protocols. I'll put the noise of protocols off until the next meeting, but I do want to look at the operational goals because our subcommittees are going to meet again, and they're the ones that are looking at these things. So if you look at them, we went over them in our retreat in this summer, and drafted these, but as well, in our retreats, we can't make any decisions, so they have to be approved here and a full committee meeting. So I'm just quickly gonna go over them. There are 5 areas, the same 5 areas that we had last year, this year under governance and operations, where, no surprise, focusing on the completion, hopefully, of the Nrsc regional agreement update. Building is the regional agreement subcommittee on that. Secondly is and work has started on this, to establish a populate an archive so that we can get all of our documents, and filing it all in order. Then there's the policy development, the continued work on the policy manual. The policy subcommittee, I believe, is going to start meeting at the end of this month. But I think as we talked about in the retreat, we need to take a deeper dive into some of the policies in there that directly affect us. And then the establishment of policies and procedures and guidelines for the use of school facilities and setting the terms for the use of revenues. The building use subcommittee has started that. They will be finishing their work within a couple months, and then this will turn over to the facilities and capital planning subcommittee. The third area, budget planning and management, the first bullet is the same as it was last year. And that's to collaborate with the administration, in everything from setting the calendar to drafting the budget to developing our presentations, etc. And then the last one there is to work with the Cape Cod Collaborative in developing recommendations for our transportation plan. We now own our buses as of July 1st. And so we need to establish a schedule for fleet replacement. 4 is school committee superintendent collaboration. The first bullet covers the development of the 5-year strategic plan that Glenn has talked about. And then, to work closely with the superintendent to actively implement a process for ensuring that items and issues are cooperatively addressed and effectively implemented. And I think we're off to a great start if I may editorial. And the last is community relations and communications. Actively support the recruitment of a communications director and improve our NRSC communication mechanisms. That's it in a nutshell. It's all we discussed it before. So I would like to formally approve these tonight so that we can all make it work.
I move to approve the operating role.
For a second. The moved and seconded, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. All right, moving on. Administrative reports, thought we never get to you guys, but here. Okay, Pat.
Okay, so, you've heard a lot about the construction project, and as you know, it takes a lot of flexibility by both teenagers and adults to pull off the construction while school is still happening. The major change this year is that the back of the school along E and along out to the modulars is really no longer a construction zone. Last year, as I reported, we had our laydown area for materials at the same intersection as the main hallway of the school, which was outdoors. So there was a lot of time, literally every passing minute of last school year, I was usually in the same place, which with people, making sure that no equipment was moving, no trucks were coming back. There was really no other way to move along with the project. Dan Burnham deserves huge kudos. The fire department involved looking at things and putting safety routines in place. And the more I think about it afterwards, I think this was just wild to be able to pull this off. But now that the fencing is gone, now that everything is really buttoned up on the backside of the campus, it's really something awesome. So in your reports last year, and just some of the comments that I put in there this last time, just, you know, everyone deserves a round of applause for getting to where we are with this project. You also see a picture of one of our students in your packet. The spirit that we saw with the seniors was awesome. We saw decorated cars and we saw a lot of hooting and hollering as students came in. They want to be identified as seniors. They're excited that the crop of folks have moved along and they've kind of moved up and they're the kings and queens of the hill, you know? So that was really, really nice to see.
So they will be the first class to graduate that will have attended, that will have gone to school in a home school.
Yes, they will go
Yeah.
to school for half of their
Yeah.
senior year and so everything that. Yeah, we also found a photo and we're gonna figure out how to frame it and mat it of the first graduating class in June of '72 from that facility. So we have to figure out how to juxtapose the photos somewhere in the front entrance of the school.
I think your seatmate was in that class.
Greg, I think you were.
I think Greg was in that class.
Okay, I'll take a look and see if I can see it. Is it, you get in the photo, is it? It's a photo of a procession of all the graduates. Most of the gents are in tweed coats, the girls are in dresses, there were no caps and gowns. And it's their actual graduation, picture of their graduation. So we'll figure out where that is. In terms of other things, and to keep this brief, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of a lot that's happening. So the flow of the campus has improved tremendously. Going back to the spring, at one of the building committee meetings, I said, when we have the door between the science building, E and D, open as a vestibule that goes to the back, we have the new main entrance and walkway open, and we have two doors coming out of the main office and auditorium area to get into the courtyard. It changes the whole flow of the campus. Hallways are less crowded, things are decompressed, and it's really remarkably different. Everyone who was there said, oh, look at this, like people aren't kind of moving in hallways tight or bumping shoulder to shoulder. So it was excellent that working with Greg and working with our contractor, they put the rush on making sure that main vestibule into the back was open. And they did good work in the last month to make sure that we had an occupancy permit for that vestibule, and it's opens everything up. In terms of where we are from a teaching and learning standpoint, the instructional leadership team is doing a study of task design. So in classrooms, the question goes back to, what is it students are doing? Who is doing the heaviest of the lift? Always the teacher or along with the students. And we had a professional development opportunity that we opened up to the faculty along with the leadership team, all the department heads. And we had 30 additional teachers sign up for this PD opportunity. And it's phenomenal. Karen McGrath, one of my assistant principals, and Hoyan Ewan and I served as the facilitators, and universally people said this was an outstanding opportunity. So thanks to Vicki, who helped us coordinate and package this. People are going to be receiving their PDPs by doing both the monthly session at our school, led by us, and the homework that they have to do to get back in school. So by and large, people are excited when the workplace provides the PDPs, our professional development points. They don't have to drive to Bridgewater State. They don't have to go online at night by themselves. And it was just fabulously received. It was really great to see. In terms of objectives and goals for the year, this is the last year of the existing school improvement plan aligned with the strategic plan. And same numbers apply that we've had for the last couple of years. Our goals are 95% for two things. 95% attendance for all students and collectively, and that is a high bar that the state sets that we're trying to meet. And then 95% passing with only tier 1 instruction, meaning in the regular education classroom with only the teacher who's standard teacher for that course, 95% of students will be passing their classes. If we can hit those two things, it frees up all sorts of money, time, and most importantly, human resources as to how we use teachers to bring enrichment and enhancement into the curriculum. And we've moved over a 2-year period, almost 3 percentage points in attendance. So people are taking attendance more seriously. And we've moved our passing rate up just 1.5 percentage points. So the number of students who are going to summer school or doing remedial work, we're driving down as we're driving up the number of students coming to school day in and day out. So look at those numbers in whatever fashion you'd like to see them. We've started a comprehensive alternative ed program called the Beacon program. We've had a good number of students who continue to show that they can learn, but they learn best in a different fashion than the traditional 7-day schedule and move about the whole school. We hired Matt Gunn back a couple of years ago now as the humanities teacher, and now Dr. LeBranch from the science department and Jess Mullen teaching math and computer science. We're bringing that all together to form a small school community and really building back the Beacon program like what SWS was back some time ago. We used to have a comprehensive school within a school because of retirements and that kind of shrunk. And in actuality, school within a school is still what that's called, but that's really not what it is anymore. That's a humanities program that's more project-based. With this new program coming on, we feel that we're going to be serving all learners, particularly learners who don't learn in a traditional kind of bell-to-bell schedule that we're used to. The other piece on the horizon, we definitely need to add a freshman seminar. Students come to Nauset High School and they just pick their electives and they just choose their classes. And one thing that we're finding is over the course of freshman year, they're realizing questions emerge about how to do high school, social emotional learning, self-management skills, maybe financial literacy, more components of health. Right, how to use IT and how to use the technology to make sure you're learning. How do you use your Chromebook to maximize what you're learning? So we're going to be building a course which is most likely a semester long for freshmen, which would be an expectation for all as to kind of like high school 101. And that's going to be in the works, and you'll hear plenty about that over the course of the year. Lastly, we have reopened our international student program. So right now we have 3 students, 2 from Germany and 1 from Italy, who are here in homestays in the district. We've rebuilt our relationship with Educatius. As you know, for Nauset, That kind of dwindled about 3 years before COVID, and then by the time COVID came around, there were no international students in the school anymore. We think that the value of this is tremendous, with our profile of the graduate, focusing on global citizenship. The best way that we know is to open the world up, to open our school up to students from the world, and then our students learn by engaging with them. It's been an excellent start so far. Jenna Margado, who's our special education department head, is the facilitator. We've been to some workshops with them over the summer to get ready. They had groups come from all over the world to Nannini, and we had dinner with them. And Jenna and the group went off to Boston to talk through what our plans might be. So anyone here, or anyone in the community, or any teacher in any Nauset school that would like to open up their home to an international student, much like Cape League baseball in some ways, we are looking for more homestay sites. I would love to see this program grow, and in a couple of years out, we have a couple dozen, if not more, international students from really a global representation. That would be the ultimate goal. 5 years from now, if we said, yeah, we have 50 students coming from all over the world to live in the Nauset district and come to Nauset High School. It's an excellent thing culturally, it's an excellent thing economically, it supports everything that we're trying to do at the school. So, quick plug to anyone at home, we would love to hear from you. You can call me and I'll connect you with Jenna, who's our facilitator. So, and it's been a great start.
Are we offering that opportunity for our students to do a similar exchange?
We can. As of right now, we're just trying to get this up and running for the first year or so, but we absolutely can. It isn't considered an exchange, however. This is in the education program, by definition, is the international students coming to the United States. What tends to happen is the relationships that get established, we find more often than not, the American Nauset student during their college years or after go and stay. Sometimes the family, the parents that host the international student goes and stays. There are stories all around this community from when this program was vibrant of people going all over the world to go to weddings. So it's really something special. But from the definition of the plan, it is not an exchange technically.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a situation, and I don't know when so I graduated in 2002. So it would have been 2 years prior, we had a junior who went to Belgium from Nauset for her junior year. So I guess I shouldn't say exchange, because I'm thinking of like the German trips we used to do where we had the same students swapping. I'm thinking whether or not we're allowing our students the opportunity to have an educational global experience as what we're offering international students to us.
Oh, sure. Yes, I can only think of one or two in the years since I've been here in terms of students who have traveled to learn. Sometimes it's not a full year, however, but what seems to be popular now is taking a semester and going abroad. But yes, those opportunities exist.
AFS, right? AFS, I think it's the official high school program.
When I graduated, it was through the Rotary program. That was, I'm aging myself.
Junior Rotarians has become more popular.
Okay.
Yes, I think it was similar to that. It was a program in Orleans. And it was a girl from Raleigh who got sponsored. I don't want to say her name, but I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. But she went over and she did a whole entire year in Belgium.
Sure. Well, Jenna Margada, who is our coordinator, lived internationally, and I believe her dad was a diplomat or traveled for his work. So she is very, very, she's well traveled, she's talented, and she understands this perspective around the travel and education because she was a student who grew up with it. So she's a perfect person to be doing the work that we have her doing.
I think it's amazing.
Good. Chris, please.
On your point, I think it's excellent to get other students, foreign students in our school, but I think the same thing is saying it would be great to have an active program. Without that, it wouldn't be for all students, but for those students that it would benefit, that they have that opportunity to, spend a semester or a year overseas. I understand there's a financial aspect, we can make some money on students, but the other side is just the opportunity. I think it's priceless, and particularly at that age, it would be an amazing. It's an area we should get them out. So have 17 in, 17 gone, it'd be great.
Just Squarebuilt on the Beacon program. I think it sounds like a great idea, and it sounds like it's gelling well together. It is a program, a coordinated program review year for us in our special ed department, so it's the perfect year for you to be creating that type of program that will be looked at. Question I had though, great looking at 95% attendance. Where are we now?
93.8,
Oh, we're almost there.
yeah, almost there.
Good, good.
And we started off, if you remember, at 91.4.
Oh, and that was one of the reasons why we kind of lost ground in our state standing.
You got it.
Correct.
They've increased the weight on the equation that ranks your school with attendance. They've actually doubled it. I'm not sure whether we're supposed to know that or not, or if that's inside baseball. But after COVID, the number of students who thought attendance was an optional thing. So the weight that the state gives on that has been increased. So we need people to understand you need to be on the job, you need to be at school.
And it's working, whatever you're doing
It's working.
is working.
It's taking a lot of efforts, but it's working.
I know,
Yes.
good for you.
And my understanding is this year you changed the rotation schedule. For the last one.
Yes, yes, this year, in terms of the schedule, we have the waterfall. Blocks are the same length, there's the same number, we continue to have 3 lunches. What we just know about learning is the golden minutes of learning for a teenager are that second block of the day, usually around 10:30 or 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. Fixed schedules do not lend themselves to taking AP Calc first thing in the morning or last thing of the day. So we rotate it through and moved, but the schedule is still a 4x4 schedule with all the same fixings, except for we're flowing the periods.
And then you don't have that rotating P day. That would be.
There's no rotating.
I think the atrocious is the B7 where you end up having the teacher you don't want for the 3 hours. I have those days.
Yeah, or the one you love, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. Yes, there's no rotating block standalone, the whole schedule of waterfalls.
Chris?
So, with the completion coming up of the school, we've got some new spaces that are gonna have to be utilized. So we've got this new auditorium, 700 seats. I'm just wondering, what is the plan or the vision, of what that's gonna look like? What kind of courses are we gonna incorporate? What is the programming gonna be to utilize our new facilities?
Well, there are 2 things that can happen. One, we can really beef up what's already on the books. So we have a lot of programs that have been involved, continuing to exist, but in some kind of makeshift or lesser space. So when we have, say, drama courses, right, those drama courses can now be utilizing either the Performing Arts Center or be using the black box down the road, which I took a walk through today. We're talking about the television studio coming online. We're gonna have to rebuild what we have because Nauset News is largely been kind of handy-cam oriented and has been running out of an English program. So now that we're gonna have these spaces, we can reboot some of the programs and now we have top-notch facilities. The one area that I think is most interesting is that the campus center, which on paper is the gallery, with the Google stairs and the space for probably 60 seats. We're talking about whether that should be some kind of senior privilege space at lunchtime. Should that be used is that gonna be a learning space only, or is that gonna also be a space that students can gather for meetings or for study groups? In that same building, we also have the innovation lab. So that's going to be including like aerial hula hoops for indoor drone obstacle courses. I mean, what the sky is the limit with what's going to happen in there. So D building is really the space that's going to do most of that. But yes, we can expand our programming. We can start to look at technologically, what more can we offer because we have these spaces. Our computer science courses, how those now get enhanced so the spaces are maximized. So
I think that the critical aspect of this building, what we have, the new things we have, the spaces, the materials for the equipment that we never had before.
Sure.
That it is critical that we lean into it and that we make sure that we maximize our usage of it. I mean, the robotics program, whatever, the robotics program used to be held in the central office in the conference room. That was where it began. Now we have a place for it. I mean, it's just important that we make sure that one, the school committee, we fund it, but also that there is a vision there to make sure that this building is utilized for all that it's worth. I just think that was part of what we sold to community when we sold the building. I think it's critical that we make sure that follows through.
And that we communicate all that.
Yeah.
Well, there are really two pieces with that to consider. If you look at it during the school day versus what happens from 3 p.m. on. During the school day, I think we keep the philosophy of what we've done with the new arts building to try to replicate that around the campus. So if you look at what's happening in jewelry making and in ceramics and in fashion design and all of those courses, the enhanced experience that I'm seeing every day that these students have is phenomenal. You go in there and take a look and say, wow, you have real legitimate art studio spaces for high school students here. The related question is, and I know we have, folks out of the central office working on this, the idea of how do we get the community in there, whether it is an iPhone class or we have a yoga studio above the gymnasium. Is it yoga? Is it technology? Is it cooking? Is it CPR and first aid? When we're going to bring the community into the school in the evening, I think we can do all of that. The one area that I'm pushing is I'd like to see a student co-teacher, a Nauset High School senior, be the co-teacher with the community teacher who is hired for any of those courses. So we can build students' resumes. If we have a junior EMT, right, in the school, has their first aid, their lifeguards, and they have their junior EMT certification. If we're going to have a program like that for our local citizens, I want that senior in there as the co-teacher. Ideally, I'd like to see that senior paid, but we can talk about that at a different point. So long and short is we can do all of that and more.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can do, kind of putting in place, I'm not sure what that looks like, the staff or whatever, to make sure that you kind of vision it out of what is possible, and then making sure that it moves forward. It's just, like I said, I know it's busy and it gets crazy, but I think that it's an important part of what, that building.
Sure. I think the piece up through the 3 p.m. Component in terms of the curriculum I'm responsible for with teenagers, there's that component, and then there's partnering with other folks to bring in night school, community school, adult ed activity in the evening.
I have a question on AI, and I don't know if any of the courses now in high school teach anything about AI, but so that's my first question. So yeah.
Yes, multiple places.
Okay, I would just like to better understand like where that's being taught, only because I do think that the kids, especially freshmen now, if they decide to go on to higher education, like college or whatever, they're gonna be expected to really understand that. That's gonna be a critical part of their higher education time frame, I would say. So if we could just get some information about where that's taught and kind of what they're learning about. And then also maybe talk about like putting some business experts in or anything. I don't know if you, I mean, obviously there have to be core checks and everything, but I don't know if you bring the outside people in, because that's obviously, there's still so much to obviously learn about that I don't think anyone's an expert in the area yet.
Sure. Yeah, we are lucky in that Jen Mullen, our library media specialist, is on the state advisory board for implementation of AI teaching in Massachusetts. The other part is the person who might be more talented and knowledgeable in that is Lisa Orlandella, who is our tech integration specialist. So we have two folks who are kind of state level recognized in terms of their knowledge. But right now, admittedly, all schools are doing it in too much of a bric-a-brac fashion, because English is trying to teach this piece. What about, what is the math department trying to do? We don't have the buttoned up comprehensive plan that we would love to have quickly. And involving regarding the community volunteers and people coming in, with entrepreneurship classes, we have people coming in to help in the classroom, move the curriculum along all the time. Yeah.
That actually might be a class that you could intertwine or interwoven into your sort of seminar that you're talking about for ninth grade. One of the classes that I took during my recent studies was specifically learning how to use AI and like the different commands that you can utilize it, along with like all of the different commands that you can utilize through like Google searches. You'd be surprised at how many people don't know how to use Google properly or understand that, and I think that's like for Excel or some of these programs that I use every day in my job. And I think what you were talking about with as an incoming freshman, the technology that we're using, I think the way that we could introduce AI could be part of that program, because I do think it can be utilized in a proper way. It can be a tool that can assist you in your learning. And I think that having that was, I look at Google as an AI tool. I mean, they're all tools. It really just, you have to remind the student that you're the one holding the hammer. And it's really about like how much force you want to use with the tool that you're using. So I think maybe not into your ninth grade sort of somehow.
It is part of the digital literacy standards for high school. It's embedded in what we
I
should
can
teach.
just jump in. We're going to be putting together an AI committee actually this year, a regional one, and we have two tasks. We're going to be looking at the new AI guidelines that Nrsc has released, and also look at programmatics together too. So that is on our docket school year. So we'll keep you updated once that committee is up and formed, and we have our goals kind of set to be improved.
Thank you.
Anything else? I'd just like to emphasize that freshman seminar that was discussed last year in the high school council. And it was really interesting to hear what the students had to say and their ideas of, and there was had a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior on there. And they all had ideas and oh, I remember, I would have liked to have known that. So they were, I thought, the best sources for what could really be included and into not only introducing the freshmen to all the different courses and areas, but helping them get introduced to life in high school.
Maybe they would teach it or teach part of it, so just have, a couple weeks, taught by seniors, junior seniors, whatever.
No doubt, student internships in-house. Yes.
That was good stuff, it was great. And they were very enthusiastic about it. So good, okay, anything else? Okay, Peter?
Save the best for last.
All right, I'll try to give quick notes as well. I wanted to just give a shout out to Mike Van Cleef, and he's our head custodian here, and just the work that they do to get our building ready for the school year. And we talked a lot about Pat School, and it's all special and shiny and everything, but our school too. The custodial crew really has a challenge in the summertime in that the Cape Cod Institute is here for most of the summer, occupying a good portion of the building. This year, the main hallway and many of the classrooms we were doing the kind of next phase of getting rid of some of the older carpet, replacing the tiles. So Mike's crew had a very short window to get into a lot of the spaces in the school to get it up and running, and they are just amazing and we've been short staffed, and so shout out to Mike Van Cleef, who's just a unsung hero in our community. So just wanted to mention that. So school is off and running. We had a great start to the school year. We've got some good new staff members joining, the returning staff. And Maisie, our student representative, it was able to sort of allude to a couple of things that I'll kind of provide some additional color as to what she was referencing. So I sent out all call to students in the summertime we're going into 7th and 8th grade to join the crew, which is basically a student ambassador program. And I didn't know if I would get anybody. It's the middle of summer, and some of them responded via their moms, but most of them themselves sent me an email very professionally and said, I'd like to join the crew. And so I set up a meeting with them in August, about 18 or so 7th and 8th graders, trained them how to give tours around this building. And then when we had the Chromebook distribution meetings over the first week before students returned for new students, all the 6th graders and the new 7th and 8th graders, after the distribution of Chromebooks, the 6th graders and their families could take a tour with these crew members. So Maisie joined the crew, as did a number of other students, and there'll be other leadership opportunities for them as well. But I think the best representatives of our school are the students. I think it's really powerful to have put students in that position of sort of showing off their school to visitors and prospective students throughout the year. And students have really leaned into it. And so we put out sort of a charge to those 18 students that stepped forward in the summer to kind of recruit probably about 18 more. We want about 36 or so students, about 18 seventh graders, 18 eighth graders is sort of what we're thinking is the magic number of ambassadors to have, so we can tap into them for different opportunities. So next week when we have open house, for example, and parents try to navigate the building and follow their student schedule, we'll have the crew members stationed around the building to direct them. And this concept of the crew is something I mentioned to you in the spring that is what we're really leaning into, this idea of instead of students becoming coming to school and just sort of being passengers and passive and having school done to them, having students take much more ownership of their own learning and giving them opportunities again to be in that leadership role, to be part of the crew on this journey. And so students have jumped at the opportunity. And so we're in the early days, but over the course of the year, I'll provide some updates, maybe bring some crew members to speak with you as well, in addition to just Maisie. Over the summer, I read the book, Anxious Generation. Last year, one of the PD pathways in the district was for folks to read Anxious Generation, and that pathway was coordinated by Aaron Sullivan up at the high school. If you haven't read the book, I encourage you to read it. It is super powerful, very accessible. We have enough data now. The first iPhone came out in 2007. We have enough data now on the impact that cell phone technology and social media is having on children. These social media apps do set an age limit of 13, which would mean that most middle schools shouldn't have access to these things, but we know that they do. It makes a very strong, compelling case that we should stop providing 11-year-olds with smartphones. And so I am on that platform every chance I get in front of parents and saying like, just use me as the bad guy. Stop taping to your child and saying I'm the only one that doesn't have one, and stop buying 11-year-olds these devices that are too powerful for them to handle, too powerful for many of us to handle. It's such a distraction.
And the book, I'm sorry, the book says.
Anxious generation. And so this year to try to eliminate that distraction, because really what it comes down to is not just the social media aspect of it, of sort of seeking likes and friends and all these things on these apps, but when students violate our cell phone policy, which in the past has been just keep it off and away, which are up in our system, and for the most part, last year in particular, kids were pretty good about it, but when kids violate it, they take the phone for the day. And you wouldn't believe the number of notifications that go off during the day on those phones. Every app that they sign up for, they get these notifications. And now the next frontier are the smartwatches. And so not only are they like maybe putting their phone away, but now like they're getting pinged all day long on their wrists with these smartwatches. So we have enough lockers in the school. They're sort of half lockers in each of the grade level hallways. Where in the past we gave kids just one of the lockers, the top locker, we didn't use the bottom lockers. This year, every kid has a top and bottom locker, and we give them a lock, and they must lock their devices in that locked locker. And so we're hoping to just eliminate that distraction altogether during school hours. Now, you'll notice if you're here at 2:45, as soon as they leave the building, they're all on their phones. We can only control so much, but we're heading and thinking in the right direction. And the parent community seems to be getting on board, and many parents are very thankful for that messaging of saying like, oh, thank you, now I can delay that entry point to these smart devices and these apps, social media apps that are really doing quite a bit of damage, I think, to our kids. So we'll see what the overall impact is. I'll continue to update you, but I think we're in a good spot with this updated procedure of locking the devices. We think there's going to be legislation probably coming next year too that's going to say that all schools must do this. So this is our kind of entry point to get at it.
There's also really strict parent controls that you could do with iPhones that I was shocked at how many parents were not aware that you can do.
Yeah.
Cause my daughter needs one for the fact that like where I work and whatever, but she can't do anything on her phone other than text, and she has a smartphone.
Right, and I think that's the thing, it's like you can make these phones kind of dumb phones, you know, like they're just phones, like they're just, and so if we can do things like that and educate the public about those kinds of safeguards, I think that'll help too, for sure. The house system that Daisy talked about, we're really excited about. Thank you, Harry Potter meets Nassau Regional Middle School. So, at Hogwarts and Harry Potter, there's a sorting hat, and you become one of these 4 houses. So, we kind of built off of that theme. We basically have assigned every student and every staff member to one of 4 houses, either the hurricanes, the tornadoes, the tsunamis, or the blizzards. And we did a big presentation in the auditorium where we unveiled which house each student was a part of. Lots of cheers and excitement. We've got software in place to be able to provide points. This is basically building on our PBIS, our positive behavior intervention system that we've used in the past with tickets. That's been only mildly successful. 6th graders kind of get excited, and then it sort of like wanes as they get older and sort of too cool for school kind of thing. But with this and basically asking 8th graders to step up as house captains, so they're putting in nominations now to become house captains, and being across grade levels will again put the 8th graders in leadership positions to be able to interact with younger kids. So each house will develop like their own handshake. So an 8th grader seeing a 6th grader from their house will be able to do the team handshake in the school, things like that. A house motto, things like that. So kids will get points for living up to our Gnostic Rocks values, the respect, ownership, citizenship, kindness, and safety. So when we catch kids doing the right thing, they get points. If we see there's a drop off in completing homework assignments, we can say like double points this week for completing your homework. And so then we give points for that. And what ends up happening with these systems is students start incentivizing their teammates. We got to get these points. We'll project leaderboards, things like that. There'll be, and so there's a trophy, the House Cup, that they're all trying to win by the end of the year. So events that we already have, like Field Day, will just sort of feed into working towards winning the House Cup. And then there'll be not only the house that wins the trophy at the end, but then there'll be individual winners as well that have earned the most points over the course of the year, with significant prizes. So we've put together some like not just gift cards, but potentially some scholarships and things like that we can put in place as like big prizes for the winners. So we're working out the details. The soft launch was just revealing the house names. Now we're working on putting the captains in place, and then we'll go live with the point competition starting in about 2 weeks on the 26th. Each house has a color, so we'll have spirit days where you wear your house color. And again, all the staff members, custodians, cafeteria workers, everybody has a house in the school. So we're excited about this initiative, and it's creating some buzz. And that was sort of like the next step for us. Over the past couple of years, we're kind of improving the overall climate of the place. It's now like getting kids excited to come to school and some things that outside of just the curriculum get them excited to come in the door, and then so they come for that excitement and stay for the learning. And then so basically all of this is sort of tied to goal 4 of our school improvement plan, which is this idea of student engagement and students taking more ownership and having more leadership opportunities. So throughout the year, you'll hear me sort of reference back to some of the specifics of our school improvement plan of being able to do that. Final thing I wanted to update you on, there's a couple other updates you can see in the report that I found, but the We2 is pretty much complete out there. The garden roof is out there as well. And on November 7th, we will have sort of like the official, almost like ribbon cutting ceremony with many of the people that made that possible invited, including members of the Wampanoag tribe that will be here to meet with kids. You'll all be invited. We encourage you to attend. That's a Friday, November 7th. Looking out some of the details of timing, but We think there's gonna be like a shared meal in the cafeteria with some of the students and some of the folks that made this possible, with some of the ingredients from garden included and some native foods. And so it promises to be a really nice event. You'll get an invitation to that. And Susie Remillard, who's really like the champion of this project, continues to get grants and awards. And so she's been awarded NEA Global Fellowship, which allows her to work with teachers across the country to build lessons about sustainable development goals from the United Nations. It's just this great marriage with her Earth Keepers and Change Makers curriculum. So lots of accolades coming to her, well deserved. And that course, the Change Makers course, just keeps expanding, as does the Greenhouse course, and lots of good things happening at the school. But the house system in particular, we're really excited about because there's just a lot of positive buzz, and it's just making the start of the year exciting. And eighth graders are excited to be kind of leading that way. And so when we did the unveiling, they all were like cheering. That gave permission to the sixth graders also to be excited. So we're in a good spot in middle school. We've got some good kiddos coming your way for years to come.
It sounds exciting. I don't know what I'd rather be, a blizzard. I don't think I want to be a tsunami. And that might be too much energy.
We're so lucky to have some incredible administrators for our two schools. Thank you.
Yeah, we are. Thank you.
Good stuff. I mean, it's a great step up from some of the challenges we had when we first got into this.
Yeah, we could have pulled this off a couple of years ago.
Well, and you got all the staff behind you. Let's see. Okay, thanks. All right, we're gonna move on now to the superintendent. All yours.
Well, no, thank you, both. Thank you so much. And I appreciate that comment, and I think you're absolutely right. We've got a great leadership. I'm working for each and every day. I know they're always late, so I'm going to try and fly through this, and I'm sure people are tired. Much of this, I think, can speak for itself, the items in here, and I'll go as quick as I can in order here. First off, we talked about the building project in the report, so I'll skip that. The entry plan is something that I have talked about previously, and I just put this in front of yourself as a committee and with the other committees in terms of trying to provide a framework, if you will, around what my initial thinking is. I value this process for those of you that were, in past conversations through the searches. This to me is a really both an exciting and important time for myself as your superintendent to really try and get a perspective on what's on the mind of our stakeholders and where do we go. And certainly a lot of that's captured in the strategic plan that will unfold. But as I've found through my time in these leadership positions, there's one time of entry and there's one important time to try and capture the sentiments of what's on people's minds. I think most importantly, this is a very, very transparent process, both in terms of being open and out there, but also the findings on it. Learning the secret, and I'll put those together in a report at the end to share with you. So I don't know, I'll pause there if you have any questions, but this is just to kind of give you a sense of what my thinking is now and a timeline where we're going to go with this area. Moving on quickly to enrollment. This is far from official, of course, for those of you that have experience with the committee and in public education. You know that there's really one time period that represents the official enrollment snapshot in school districts throughout the Commonwealth, and that's October 1st. We're obviously nowhere close to that yet, but I just thought I would interested, if not for anything else, to give you a sense. These numbers that I want to stress and preface are far from anything official. I asked our own gathered meetings, I think it was on day 1 or 2, so there's undoubtedly been changes with students who may have been enrolled and didn't show up or conversely the opposite, so, but it gives you a broad snapshot. As we get further along in the process, of course, this will be paired with a comparison for where we've been in the past, there's always an interest. And where I've been, and I'm sure that's the case here in Madison, so, just where it is a snapshot, far from official, certainly.
Second question on that, so two points numbers, up.
No,
I don't, they're flat,
I'm not sure, yes.
they're flat to be down 4 or 5.
I've got them, the numbers that.
I think it was 171 last year.
So, and then just a clarification question again, school choice, in the middle school, it says Truro, 7 kids. Are those school choice kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So, are those from, so just to make sure that they're not also included in the, choice 8, those are different kids. So school choice, so it's important, I think, to understand that 6th grade is school choice for Truro.
7 is
Those 7 students,
I'll try and
and 7th
break that.
and 8th grade migration. So it just.
Right, thank you.
clarify those two.
I think we've had that conversation before in prior years, and I'm pretty sure that they are separate. That's my memory, but
Yeah.
we're checking.
Yeah, good.
We definitely talked about it.
Yeah, and then the school choice breakdown by school, like where they're coming from. And the other side of this is where are the kids going? So to get some kind of enrollment, enrollment, who's going where, in which grade are they exiting, and where are they going? Clarification, and I know it's not within our purview, but does Wellfleet have any choice kids coming
The 2.
in which grade?
I think it's the lower grades because 4th and 5th have 20 and 21.
So.
I think that's right.
Okay, well, we can back. Thank you.
School opening was on here, and I, again, in the interest of time, but we're open, we're up and running, we had a great start, and, we're day 8, but by all accounts, all the folks who are, working as part of the leadership team and our staff have worked super hard to get things, in a great place, so, efficiency visualization, I'm gonna skip over that, it's
Can
a.
I just go?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Just in the next iteration, we have a side by side year over year.
Yes.
And include the charter, school, students, in the number, because that will reflect back to our budget and to see if we got less than we anticipated or whatever, our budget or whatever.
It's great feedback to that in terms of what the kind of data breakout would be helpful for you. I appreciate the feedback and we'll try and make that report hit those targets or hit those things.
And before you go on, can I just go back to your action plan real quick?
Sure.
So I am really thrilled to see that you're going to be doing surveys and stakeholder meetings. I think that those are gonna be really important. And that you're gonna be including community members, beyond just our 4 laws. The other question I had, and I was wondering about this in our previous meetings, about recent graduates. Is there any way to include those graduates or whoever you can gather into some of your data gathering about how effective was the education in Nrsc? How did they find it? How did they?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So it's hard to find that.
That could be really helpful. Yeah, and I only know that through looking at from recent times of, the question around students, families that are grouped off in the system. And there's not often a time that we have still that big in our system to be able to access the ones that we work, so that's a reality, but it's a great question, and one certainly gives some thought.
In that note, if we could collect data from seniors when they leave to data, access. I mean, so we can continue that communication, there's.
Yes.
Nonsec something, if there's a group of Nonsec graduates or whatever, but we've never really had the ability to communicate or interact with them. I think that would be very helpful. I mean, you know, just for everything, for community, for fundraising, for, you know, advertising, for your communication stuff, for, you know, playing sports events, whatever. I think we're just missing an opportunity.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip over the efficiency and visualization memos, and again, just in the interest of time, I think we may potentially trying to rush through, but I'll let folks here. But this, it's an extensive document that has gone out to not only all the school committees, but also the other town leadership groups. And we know that this is a study going on for those that are interested. There's a full submission from the group, the consultant group that is selected. And to members of this committee here and others, and gives you a little bit of sense of where we're going. There will be community engagement opportunities coming up. Stay tuned for more information on those dates. We're working with the consultants and the principals to schedule those. That will not be until the end of February, but so I'll make sure to include that information in the future report. And the student representative is the last item on my report tonight. You see, I've included a memo there. We talked with Judy Moore around this, and I think this is a great direction to make an adjustment to. I was watching your meetings after my appointment last year and through the process, and I know you've got a great and regular presence of students who are coming here to share exciting news that's taking place in the small district, which is terrific. One of the things though we talked about that is not going in place, and that is trying to elevate student voice around this table for engagement in some of the discussions. And as pointed out, it's something that lots of school committees have, lots of school committees probably don't have also. So it's not that you've been necessarily, you know, an exception to that, but it's a great opportunity, and it's really something that we actually should have in place. And so this kind of gives you some context for it. I'm happy to say that working with Pat Clark, we have 2 students that are interested in this. I met with them earlier today, and we're working out some of the details, but I guess not, unless there's any objections to move in this direction. I'd love to invite, probably not both at the same time. I think we're gonna respect their busy schedules when we're working out some kind of rotation, but they would not be a voting member. They can't be, but they can be at the table. Or and we'll try to be strategic in planning agenda items with the chair and vice chair that might be more for student engagement. And I think what I've seen in the past is it's a great opportunity for you in these seats to ask questions of the students, right, about relevant certain matters. And so it's an exciting direction change, and I appreciate the thought, and I think we'll be excited to talk about this.
But they also get to participate in discussion. I mean, they can't vote, but they can participate in discussion.
Yes.
So when people make presentations, they're allowed to ask questions just as we, correct?
Certainly. Well, she
Okay.
had a different thought around that, but
That's exactly what I'm looking for.
they certainly would not attend executive sessions, right? If those kind of things, again, they could underscore the thought that they can't vote, but they certainly can be at the table, and we're just gonna, they will have a name card and such, and you can certainly feel free to call on them or the presenters. It brings a different lifeline to the conversation, so. And that is it for my report.
Student advisory committee, do we need to worry about that, this is required by law?
I think we're in a good place with that, and I can cover a little more of that, what the structure is, but.
Yes, one question I have is sort of the 2 topics that I brought up at our last meeting and whether or not you had any follow-up to that. So the grant money that's available to schools, and then also the availability of staff and the guidance counseling officer and so on, this accessibility.
So not at this point, but those things to look at.
Okay, great. Anything else? All right, super. We're gonna move on. Okay, it's late in tonight, but get ready for numbers. So, see if everybody's still late. So we have our budget update, budget to actual. And Duane, are you doing this?
Well, yeah, I'll just jump in real quick and then turn it over to Duane. You
So you have a report in here.
You looked into your budget summary and, you know, a couple of things that we talked about before, which is keeping in context. And you obviously all know that one of the challenges that the district has faced going into towards the end of last year and going through the last number of months is the transition within specifically the finance department. That certainly, as you can all appreciate, that certainly caused, some challenges.
Opportunities and challenges in terms of closing out fiscal year 25.
And preparing for fiscal year 26. And so, we've had the good fortune to have Bob Dutch. Yeah, forgive me, I'm not exactly sure if he met you but I know that, Brooke Punchy shared with you that, bringing him on board. I've had the pleasure to work with him and not previous to this, but in this capacity, he is retired, both superintendent as well as heavy background in finance in the administration. He knows his stuff. We were fortunate to have him, thank goodness, given the circumstances. He's been working hard to help transition Duane into his role and to help sort of clean up really figuratively where we ended and getting us set for the opening of fiscal year 26, which is what we're now in. And they've been working hard with the team, Duane and Bob, to get us to where we are. And so the report that's here for you tonight, as well as the other school committees, gives you a sense of where fiscal year 25 is wrapping up. Given the circumstances, it took a little bit longer than it typically should or does. It's never a case, from my experiences from many different districts, that these books are closed as of June 30th in fiscal year. There's a lot of work that has to go into to finalizing things, but we want to talk a little bit about these numbers for fiscal year 25 wrap up, and with that, I'm going to turn over to Duane.
Thanks, Glenn. I'll be as brief as I can. But yeah, so as Glenn mentioned, we've recently closed out fiscal year 25. But I do just want to give you just some context, just in terms of how we sort of made it there. I came on board in mid or late July, so shortly after fiscal year 25 ended, which is technically June 30th. And so when I came on board, as Glenn mentioned, Bob Dutch had joined Nrsc as an interim director. He came on board in June. And so my top priority, as well as Bob's top priority, was really understanding the state of the financial picture as in terms of Nrsc. So my predecessor had already left, the assistant director had already left. And so there was none of that sort of institutional knowledge, if you will, or sort of a playbook at all to pass on to Bob and I. And so our top part was really understanding and really, peeling the onion, or layers of the onion, so to speak, to understand where we stood, and also what was it going to take for us to be able to close fiscal year 25. And so in doing that, we're able to get, an understanding in terms of what had been done to that point, and also a number of things that had not been done. And that's where, we were able to uncover some of the challenges, I think, as it pertains to the financial side. And so some of the things that we found is that, for example, as we were working to close FY 25, initially it looked as if there was going to be, a potential deficit, as it pertains to the region. And so as we continue to look into things and do research, ultimately we were able to find that there was actually going to be a surplus. And so the most obvious question is, how does that happen? And so there's the silver lining is you go from a potential deficit to we're actually going to have a surplus as it pertains to the region. So the number one cause, that we found was the fact that a lot of funds were over encumbered. And so for anybody who may not be familiar with that terminology, in essence, what that means from a financial or accounting standpoint is that you'll put an encumbrance on a particular line item. So for example, in the budget, in order to, in essence, put a reserve, a hold, a freeze on those funds. And so one of the things that we found is that it was a significant use of encumbrances, not just in terms of the actual line items, but also in terms of the dollar amount. And so ultimately, the way to resolve that was to then go and see which ones are at accurate levels, but also which ones need to be either removed or what we call liquidated, basically brought down to zero, or if it's at a particular level, let's say $20,000, should it be at 5,000 instead? So basically right sizing those numbers, because part of what helps determine or define if there's money available, not just in the overall budget, but in each specific line item within a budget. So if it's office supplies or for teaching or whatever the case may be, is based on what's budgeted, what's actually been spent, but then also what's encumbered. And so even any sort of funds that are encumbered, that are put on hold, reserved, whatever the case may be, but not actually spent, still counts towards what you actually have available to spend. So you can sort of think about it in sort of everyday, terms. Think about it as like a credit card. You have a credit card with a $10,000 limit. You may, or a vendor or company may put a hold on your credit card of, let's say, $7,000. Even though you haven't spent that $7,000, you now have $3,000 available to actually spend. So let's say you're on vacation or whatever the case may be. And so we found a lot of those encumbrances. Ultimately, when we liquidated and right-sized those encumbrances, we then found that the region, rather than running a potential deficit, actually resulted in a surplus. And so typically, one, it was great to find that, but also we don't anticipate that being the case in the future. And part of the reason why, and I can only speculate as to how it got to that point, but one of the things that we put in place is actively managing encumbrance levels, not just in terms of the region, but also something that we're doing even within the elementary schools as well, in terms of providing monthly and looking at that monthly and partnering with whether it's Pat or Peter, in terms of making sure that those encumbrance levels are proper, are at the correct levels, so that we can see a more accurate picture of what's actually available. At the end of the day, as we all know, when it comes to financing and budget, we all want to be able to know how much funds are available, whether it's for a particular project, a good, a service, so that we can then make proper decisions. And so that's one of the fixes that we put in place, but also one of the things that we found in terms of where some lines were overdrawn, was also just how purchase orders were used. So for example, you have a purchase order for $10,000. There was no safeguard that prevented anybody from spending over that $10,000. You can imagine, to think about that, how that can be problematic and potentially lead to overspending, deficits, things along those lines. So we put safeguards in place to ensure that there is a hard cap. So if you have a $10,000 purchase order, you cannot overspend that $10,000. And so those are just some of the things that we've uncovered, but also those are some of the fixes that we put in place, and we'll continue to put fixes in place. And also one of the things that we've been very purposeful about is also working, really as partners, with the schools. Also in terms of, we recently had a budget and finance subcommittee meeting on Monday. And so really in that, just being very transparent, really working as partners. That'll continue as we move forward, not just in terms of as we close out FY25, but also as we move forward in preparation for the upcoming budget season. And so as you can see from the sort of the one pager that was provided, as I mentioned, there's a surplus in terms of the region. It's about $806,000. And this is just a breakdown, just in terms of where it is in terms of the high school, the middle school, region only, and region shared. And it's also just a note at the bottom. So the question might be, okay, so what happens with that $806,000? So the answer is that $806,000 will end up ultimately being moved into either a regional special ed stabilization account, which Judy had touched on earlier, or E&D, excess and deficiency, and that's going to be dependent on how all of you vote, the school committee votes. And as Judy mentioned, we'll talk more about that at the next budget and finance subcommittee meeting. And so that sort of in a nutshell, just provides some, I think not only the fact that we closed out FY 25, but also hopefully some helpful insight and context in terms of how we got here. And as Glenn mentioned, you know, Bob Dutch has been, you know, a huge help. I think not just in terms of my, I think sort of onboarding, you know, coming to Nauset in late July, but also I think even just in terms of, helping us, you know, be able to close out FY 25, but also moving forward as well, so.
Touch base on the accounting software.
Yeah, so the accounting software, and so we're currently using software. And so I don't know if anybody who's used it, it's a pretty, you know, it's a pretty antiquated user interface. And you know, of course, there's certain things that we can do, but it does have its limitations. And so the plan is that around January, we're gonna launch and move toward a new software, which is by a company called Tyler. And so ultimately what it'll allow us to do is one, it'll have a more modern user interface. It'll allow more functionality in terms of not just how we view the day-to-day transactions, but also just in terms of the reports that we run, what type of reports we can run, what kind of detail we can get into, which ultimately will also help just in terms of being able to share, I think, really quality data to, you know, with the committees. And so right now, I think that's going to be something that's going to be, you know, I think a huge help for all of us. And so the plan is what we anticipate is we, you know, along with Tyler, the company, will start to move forward in terms of the implementation, some of the training of staff, starting around October. And it's gonna be, you know, a phased process. And so even once we get to January and officially do launch, we're gonna be in essence sort of running parallel systems initially. And so what that means is that we will be getting closer to being fully integrated in terms of just using Tyler. But in the meantime, from January over the next, you know, probably over the spring, we'll be also using our current system as well, software, just because we want to make sure to minimize any sort of downtime. We want to make sure that you know, the data and the functionality and stuff like that in terms of Tyler during that initial period, that everything goes smoothly. So
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, anybody else?
I just have to send, did you want to say anything? This, Duane, just having you explain this, and having this report from you is just so refreshing. And you explained it in such a way that it's easy to understand. So thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Is this one Munis software that you're transitioning to?
Yes.
It's pretty similar, yeah. Bob Dutch, who we touched on a little earlier, he's worked a lot in the Munis system. And so in terms of the interface, yeah, from what he says is that, yeah, it is very similar, yes.
Right.
Are you gonna then work with OpenGov to have a public interfacing through?
I don't know enough about that. Somebody might be better positioned to answer that. Glenn, do you have any idea, or Judy?
I think we just need to take this one step.
Yeah.
Get it out.
Yeah.
Moving in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll definitely circle back. We'll circle back.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? No.
Thank you. Yeah, I just, I know that you're preparing everything and getting it all in order to present to Desi at some point in time. Maybe in the near future, you could give us an indication on, our, you know, forecast of where you think we need to be, our position with, excess of efficiency is part of the need. That's not something that we've tracked religiously, monthly, quarterly, just to see where status is. Yeah, I know you're in the process of doing all this.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
I should also say that Duane and Bob Dutch are working on getting a new replacing the dashboard with some. I know, I know, Chris.
Thanks for doing that report.
Great.
So, that's a work in progress, but we started discussions on that, and so to come up with something, I think everybody thinks it's more meaningful. And just, to kind of wrap this up, I just have to say, I know this is gonna come as a surprise to everybody, but I like surpluses better than deficits.
Yeah.
So this is great.
It's a nice problem to have.
Yes.
So I know that Berwick sent a letter to the towns about the $250,000 deficit. And, you know, that was the news that was shared. So were we able to then share this good news with them as well?
Yeah, and I think, yeah, and yeah, that's one of the things I think is, as, you know, as I came on board and Bob Dutch and Glenn came on board, is that, you know, we did hear about that initial $250,000, which I think that was that around February, March, somewhere around there. Okay.
It was the last.
So it was even more recent than that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I know that caused a lot of concern, angst, understandably. And so ultimately, we did not end up spending that $250,000. And so the good news is that, you know, those funds can, in essence, go back to, you know, E&D or wherever the case may be. And so, go ahead, Chris.
They're not in here, so, sorry, we have 250 that was set aside, and it is not present in the 800,
No.
6,000.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is actually.
Because it was added.
The question that I was asking was more about the communication to the towns.
Yeah.
If the towns know that about the change, great, that's hopefully.
Yeah, and then in terms of the actual breakdown, in terms of where that $806,000 go, that'll be up to the school committee, depending on, you know, how you vote in terms of, you know, what that sort of, how much would go, for example, into E&D, and how much would go into that special ed stabilization. That's gonna be one of the topics that we discuss in more detail at the next budget and finance subcommittee meeting. But that is something that, you know, that you, the committee, will ultimately vote on.
Okay, anything else? Okay, we have one more, finance business, and that is a presentation of the warrants. We are required, by, policy and by state law to, we are allowed by policy and state law to have, a representative from this committee sign the warrants, which we had 2 people, do. And this is so payments can actually be made and people can actually get paid on time, and it facilitates that process. However, the same policy and state law require that we make available a report on the warrants at the next meeting to the full committee. So although somebody signs it, it's still the full committee's responsibility to approve all the warrants. This is something that's never been done in my time on this committee. But this is our policy and this is the law, and we're going to start doing it now. So what we've done is worked with Carrie, who's one of the warrant authorizers, who's worked with the Duane staff. And at every meeting, we will get a summary of the warrants that were signed in the previous month or 2 weeks, whatever the time period is. So that you can see where and how much goes out at any given time. So I spent some time looking at lots of different, I think 10 or more school districts to see what they did and how they presented this. And, so this was kind of what, a lot of the districts did, so that we have a list, we have the date of the warrant. And any given date, there are a number of different warrants that are signed, for different purposes, and then their amount. So this is the summary of the warrants that were signed in July and those in, August. And this is what we will be getting, at every meeting. So Carrie, you wanna talk about it a little bit more?
Thank you, Judy. And again, Duane's staff was made, and Shirley, who was accounts payable just for the region, was spent 3 hours with me on Tuesday. We had to start from scratch. We had no form, we had no format, we had no protocol, so, and after going up to see Duane really quickly and you really quickly, just to make sure that we were following the right procedures within our departments, Shirley and I did work to, look back through July and August. It was a little bit of a heavy lift because it's not something that, like for October, it's gonna be a lot easier. But the July and August, we were designing the whole, the way that we were gonna present this. So this is what we came up with, nice and pretty. But it includes all of the amounts that Chris and I actually signed during July and August. So we wrote down each warrant in each section of the warrant. So that the first part of July, we signed for spending $2,730,000, $730,000.
So
$10.30, Second half was $1,562,230.96, with a grand total of $4,292,241.43. And if there's any questions about any of those expenditures, please let us know. The thing that we did not include here were any numbers that we signed that actually got charged to the previous month. So this is the accounting only that got charged to July. Also within those warrants, there were a couple of things that we had signed that were for FY25. So those were not included in these numbers either. Same thing for August. So I'm not gonna read the numbers, you can see them right there. And I put in the check loyalty issues numbers in red, so you can see or correction actually in the region and cafeteria and baseball in the second part of August as well. So does anybody have any questions about that?
No, I just know that you can see our payroll.
Yeah. You can see the payroll and you can see the benefits.
Biggest ticket item.
You can see the benefits as well, the payroll deductions. That's, you know,
Dave, I just have a question. Why was there not any payroll for the last one? Is that just
for the last, for the August meeting? That's probably gonna appear in September.
I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
So it was pretty eye-opening, and I now understand what all those folks mean.
It's that regional cafeteria in Jason.
Yeah, mostly, go ahead, Judy, go ahead.
The cafeteria has a revolving fund, and so the monies that come in through the cafeteria, the food services people also do the Orleans Firebirds food and also the Brewster White Gas. This group it pays for itself.
So these are only the expenditures, we don't have anything that is report.
Or we keep them the same, we don't differentiate between having in the baseball season. And then who is in charge of sort of the food that we are deciding on, or the program that we're doing, is that under that? Under
Super.
That's,
Services.
that's you.
It's under the district, yeah.
But is it under the school committee or is it?
Oh, it's not,
It's an administrative report, so it's under the superintendent.
No, nobody reports to us, except for the treasurer.
I understand that, I'm just trying to see if that's something that we have any sort of jurisdiction on, any sort of conversation where we have to look at approving that. If there's concerns, I guess, with what we may have to do for the food service, would we just express them to you directly?
That's one path, sometimes food services can fall under the wellness committee review, there's different ways to go about, not just food services, that's what you're talking about, but any program services, there's certainly opportunities for discussion, conversation, presentations, and feedback that can come to this committee. Even though it's not a direct report, it's certainly a program service that ultimately was out there for this.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the question about the money that's spent.
I wouldn't have a warrant, so I'm running out of warrant expenditure. And I'm just clarifying that they went through all the checks that were written and summarized them in these categories.
Yes, and that's how we get them. So we get, for instance, for payroll, not the payroll, right? So this total amount. Oh, but in addition to that, in our reports that we get to sign, we can see, it doesn't have the actual person's name, but it has their number. That doesn't have the names on here. But it said, we have an itemized list of what makes up this $809,000. So,
And the software program has all the stuff on for you.
So in terms of the warrant, and I know, like, if somebody's not used to that term, it's kind of like, oh, what? And yeah, so that's in essence what it is, like Terry mentioned, is that normally the way that we prepare them is that there'll be a cover sheet, which is basically who's reviewed, who signed off on it. I'm one of the people that will review it and sign it before it goes to anybody, before it leaves the building, so to speak. And so what it'll have is, within that, there'll be a summary of what's the documentation within that warrant. But then in addition to that, there'll be things like the actual invoices, purchase orders, things along those lines. And so we have the supporting documentation and all that. And so in terms of what Carriage providing, this is in essence just a summary of all that. And some of the warrants, for anybody who hasn't seen it, can be very, very thick, just in terms of the amount of invoices, whether it could be, multiple purchase orders, things along those lines. It could be, in some cases, some email communication or confirmation, or some level of justification, things along those lines. And so the individual warrants can be quite thick. And like I said, and we have all that supporting documentation. And so that's part of what we send to the committee, and so when they sign off on it. But this is in essence just sort of a summary of a lot of documentation, so.
Yeah, and the treasurer's role in that process?
So really not necessarily in terms of, so in terms of the warrants, so just to kind of, so what'll happen is that we'll have, in this case, Shirley, who's part of the accounts payable team, who will prepare the actual warrant, so get the documentation together, things along those lines. She'll initially review that, she'll sign off on it, that she's reviewed it, sign off on it, and then it'll go to one of the members of the team who's functioning sort of a supervisory type capacity, whether it's Christy or Pete, one of them will review that after Shirley. At that point, it'll come to me to then review, to sign off on it, before we even send it off to the committee. And so that's sort of the process in terms of the steps of the warrant, so to speak.
and so from September 1st on, it'll be Liz and I will be, I usually get it first and sign it as soon as I sign, and then it goes to Liz. And what's nice is both of us, I think, are email, you watch our email all the time. So we'll try to get it, as soon as we get it looked at, signed, and then sent back, so.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, because I know anytime somebody receives that amount of documentation, that amount of pages, is just, hopefully it gives some kind of peace of mind to know that before it goes out of the building, 3 people at least have already looked at it, reviewed it, signed off on it. And so you don't necessarily have to feel sort of all that weight on your shoulders that you're the only one reviewing. at that point, 3 people, you know, within the financing have already looked at it and signed off on it, so.
Unfortunately, now you go to electronically, not have to go in with paper, versions, and that was serious. Yeah, so COVID changed a lot of things.
So shared, so these are the budgets that we all have, so the shared budget is the budget that we have in our system that we share with other schools. Districts.
Yeah. Okay, so
So that's it.
thanks for the work, yeah, and now we're gonna comply with the law.
And October will be much, and September will be much easier.
Yeah, all right, one last item. Surplus,
Yes, they were all in this room.
did a lot of cleaning in the.
This was the woodwork shop.
This is really sad for me, because I don't support this.
We want to keep it over.
I think that we need to have programs in the school that to work with our hands, that's what we saw, that we. Don't have.
So, I don't know what W means.
I think we should, it's not a sale like it's not, but we make you one of them. I don't want to say to
There's usually a quote on here somewhere.
There was on the last, forms, I don't know.
It's like to add that on here.
There wasn't it wasn't a form.
Yeah, that is a form. That was one, I don't know, we've got.
I think the last time was salvage, which was S, so I don't remember what that W stands for.
We're looking at.
Aaron says all surplus of the replacement. Okay, so here we have, I have a motion to approve disposing of, the surplus items. Well, it's already said. Oh, I said, do I don't know. It's not, it's being okay, if we moved and seconded, all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, quickly, all subcommittees, have met. You wanna report quickly?
Yes, a lot of it's been, put out already. We had a great meeting, Glenn and, Duane and, Bob Dutch attended. We, as a group, we were trying to revise and have an updated dashboard. And one that's easily, understandable by everybody. So that the nerds like me are, you know, get off on it. We entertained all of the ideas and input from the committee. On the committee is Sarah, Carrie, Judy Moore, and myself. We're going to come back hopefully with a rough draft of a proposal for a new dashboard. We'll be working through it, present it to you for your input and your thoughts on what you want. The only homework assignments that were given out were to the central office this time. But be ready, team, next week, assignments will be going out. Homework and items to review while I'm on my cruise. We also had mentors assigned to help with the new members on the team. I'm going to be working with Carrie, but based on Carrie's presentation and what she's done with the warrant, she'll probably be mentoring me. And Laura's going to work with Sarah, and we're just trying to get everybody up to speed. You know, a lot of us did it the old-fashioned way over the last 3-4 years of learning what it all. So, and we'd like to help people along. So and some presentations that Duane made tonight were just great to give you insight into the operations. So think some of us just took the time. But, thank you very much. Thank you to the team for our work.
Maura, region, agreement?
Yeah, we have two subcommittee meetings next week, the building, the ad hoc building use subcommittee is gonna meet Tuesday morning. And then to round out the day, the regional agreement subcommittee is going to meet Tuesday night. And one thing I want to clarify with the ad hoc building use subcommittees, I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle and people were confused by it. So when we did the reorganization, there was a facilities and capital planning subcommittee on there. The idea is that this building use subcommittee, which is an ad hoc, so for a temporary amount of time, will fold into that. The thinking was, the three of us, Chris and I we want to get a document to the body without transitioning it to a bigger group that's then gonna have to learn it and get up to speed. So we're gonna finish out that one and then hand it off. We'll dissolve that committee hopefully in the next couple months and then hand it off to the facilities and capital planning committee. So I know there was some confusion on that and I want people to wonder what was going on. That's what's going on. We're gonna try to wrap up at least this first phase and then hand it off. So, yeah.
Quick question, that meeting Tuesday, where's that here?
Which one?
The regional agreement subcommittee,
That is gonna be virtual.
that's what, okay.
And the regional agreement subcommittee is meeting, right, on Tuesday?
Tuesday night, yes,
Okay,
And the building use is in the room.
yes.
okay.
The one the following Tuesday, the regional.
But we're gonna talk about that at our meeting on Tuesday night. Okay, yeah, thanks.
You wanna get the communications?
We had our first meeting on Monday, and there's just been a lot of meetings, okay? And, we spoke about our goals and we're still discussing that. We're meeting again this coming Monday. Dr. Brandon Taylor are gonna join us for that meeting. And we're gonna continue to talk about our goals and, some of those goals include the website and the app. And also talking more about the communication and staff position. Some more to come on this.
Chris?
And the meeting has not been set yet for capital asset subcommittee, but we are working through it, even with that.
It's changed its name. It's changed its name.
Well, it hasn't yet, because you haven't gotten the charge from the city.
Okay, I think that's it. The transportation subcommittee has also met. We just try to get a start and bring the people up to speed and figure out where we're going. We're going to meet again in the beginning of this month. We want to, no, next month, October. And we'll be meeting with the collaborative. We're going to try to come up with some kind of a initial plan for the fleet replacement by the beginning of the calendar year, because if we have to get any new buses this year, that apparently is the time to get them. I'm told that, I don't question it, because but so that's what they're doing, and
Question about transportation.
yeah.
Are there trackers on our buses and they are all the time?
Yeah. And you all should be getting emails, all of the, many of the subcommittees under the joint school committee are beginning to meet, and so, but I think everybody's trying to get going now. It's hard to find times for all of these things. I mean, this has been a busy week. It's like school really has started. Things really are ramping up. And our meeting has gone an hour over what it should be. And that's probably significant of everything that's been going on. So I think that's it. Just everybody on your subcommittees, remember redoing the charges. We hopefully will get that at our meeting in October so that we can formalize that. And I think that's it. Anything else? It's ready to go. Okay, we can't go until.
I move that we adjourn.
Everybody sees someone. So, for sure.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.